down and out, riddled with doubt, had nowhere to go. Everything's moving so slow, the time's moving too fast. I hope this feeling don't last. Well, I've been away from myself too long. My body is aching from all my wrongs. And now that I know I'm not that strong, I'll keep slipping on to you. I'll keep slipping until my time is through. I'll keep slipping on to you, yeah, on to you.
I am the devil. I am the Lord Satan from the netherworld, ruler of the damned and eternal king of hell. Even I, the master of deceit, can only stomach so much bullshit from the mainstream media and indie grifters. That's why I tune in to Morning Extra with Uncle Warren, because he eliminates my competition, and also because I know I'm gonna see that motherfucker soon.
Deo, Deo.
Baby's got a burger and a shooter, and that shake is all go down. Baby's got a burger and a shooter, and that shake is all go down. Corrosion to her thighs, erosion of her pride. Baby's got a shooter, baby's got corrosion now, corrosion now. Baby's got it.
Greetings and salutations. That sounds a little loud, but I've been noticing on these recordings the audio's a little low. So, but now it might be a little too high. But I'm always paranoid about that stuff, especially after Monday. I want to apologize for Monday. Apparently, I don't know, I didn't change any settings or anything like that. I think it was with the service provider, made it a little sticky. And yeah, there was a lot of the that buffering stuff. And I said, well, we're just going to cut that out. Nobody wants to sit here and watch me just going. You know, hate that shit. And I hate to see other content creators go through that too, because we've all been through it. We've all been at the mercy of the internet service provider, right? That's how we provide these quality programs to you, is through the internet, right? And it's through internet service providers. And it doesn't matter. They're not going to tell you about some rando repair thing they're doing on some node in the neighborhood. They're not going to say, hey, Uncle Warren, I know you're doing a show today, so we wanted to let you know we're going to be fucking up the internet for you for a little bit. So no, you don't get that. You don't get those warnings. So anyway, hopefully today, so far so good, knock on wood. Hopefully we won't have those same problems. Good morning to you, Zelle. Yes, today is the beginning of the Lunar New Year. It is the year of the snake. So yeah, if you were, I can't remember what the thing was. If it's different years. Yeah, so if this is the year of the snake. Apparently it's like a metaphor for shedding your skin, becoming anew, asserting yourself in your goals, yada, yada, yada. The Chinese astrology. So if you're Asian astrology, I should say, it's not just limited to Chinese. So even though most of my experiences with Chinese folks and the Lunar New Year, I'm the year of the monkey. So yeah, we're weird. We're weird people. Looks like you and me, Zelle. So you get the you get the private show today. Although it says we have 5 people watching on YouTube. We got our lurkers lurking in the morning, doing their morning routines, getting their coffees. Everybody got their coffee or whatever you do. Some people are like, I drink tea. I don't drink. I'm like, all right, snoots. I don't care what you're drinking as long as, you're having a morning beverage, right? I like coffee. Getting rid of bad energy, yes. That's shedding your skin, getting rid of bad energy. So yeah, I know a couple friends of mine who are snakes. So hopefully they will be having a good year this year. So we'll see. But Yeah, I know, Zelle. It's all for you, Damien. Just like, and then Holly plants, If you've never seen The Omen, you should probably watch it. It's a good, scary, disturbing, scary movie. Look at Willie Bragg out of nowhere flying it through the window like Superman. How you doing, my friend? I always keep hitting the wrong one. So Willie says the year of the snake in China is their version of U.S. Senator Elizabeth Warren of Massachusetts here in the USA. Willie will be at the Copa this weekend with Murray Head. Thanks for the 10 spot, Willie. I appreciate you. And thanks for the that year of the snake update. I gotta tell you, man, look, listen, nobody likes technical difficulties, right? But, the other day, it was just, it just rattled me, man. And, I only do this like Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So I was just like, oh, the fuck. And it wasn't anything on this end. It was just one of those things. You just get a glitch in the matrix. You could say, they're trying to shut me down because I'm telling too much truth, but I don't think they're listening to me, Whitey McCracker. I think they're looking for more other people to exploit. We got a lot of stuff to get to today, folks. I overpacked, unfortunately. So it looks like it's going to be that way. You should have seen that snake reference coming 100 miles away. Yeah, once you said it's their version of the U.S., and I was like, uh-oh, here she comes. Now, wait a minute, I don't like being called a snake. I'm not really a snake, I'm more of like a salamander. I like being a salamander or a newt. Or an eft. I might want to be an F, but I'm definitely not a snake. You're like, what the fuck's an eft? It's like, yeah, that's a fucking critter, dude. The only reason I know what an eft is because I learned it from the Compton's Encyclopedia. Basically, the internet before the internet. Or Encyclopedia Britannica, if you were like a money pants, and you were fancy, and you had all that stuff. Anyway, rambling. We got to get to other stuff here. We got to get to news. But first, of course, we got to take care of our pals. So if you can, if you've been watching the show, we've been trying to spread the word for Chanda's GoFundMe. Chanda, our buddy over at Trailer Park Pundit and Beauty and the Boomer. She's dealing with lung cancer, going through the treatments, and she's a champ. But those bills cost a bunch. So if you could help her out or spread the link around, that would be great. And also our buddy Kevin in L.A., who lost his house in the fires there. He could use your help too. Both of their links are down below in the description. Like I said, if you could donate, that's great. If you already have, that's great. If you just want to share it out, let people know, that's cool. What's up, Sushi Gang? I know who you are. I was on with Sushi Gang the other night. What was it, Monday night? With Miss Glory and Shadowban and Franco and this knucklehead. Sushi Gang was on there. We had a good time though. It was a very good conversation. We were talking about TikTok and Red Note and all its implications, that kind of thing. So good show. I like it. Franco was hosting. He puts on a good spread. So, he had THC laced M&Ms in the green room like I requested. They're all green M&Ms, by the way. So, Mariana, yes, it was. And I'm glad you were there too. I appreciate it. Yeah, Glory is an amazing chick. I love Glory. Willie, what are you saying here? If I see Marjorie Taylor Greene, I could scream that she's the Turner Diaries with a bleached blonde, bad built book body instead. Book body? She always looks like somebody that's running a tanning bed business and is always calling the cops for some reason. That's what she reminds me of, right? She has tanning beds, and I don't know. She's like, she's always called. I know she's from Georgia, but she is a straight up Florida chick, man. You know she is, right? She probably had her bitch training done in Florida, but yeah, she's straight up like, I'm calling the manager. All right, enough of this. We gotta get to news and other things. Hey, Liana, what's up? Her eyes are too small and close together. Whose eyes are too small and too close together? Glory's? Mariana's? No, my eyes? I don't know what you're talking about. You speak in riddles. Tell me more. Okay. So let me get myself set up here. Oh yeah. Yeah, she's got like some sort of weird alien face, but not like a cool, hot chick like, what's her name? Anya Joy Taylor or whatever her name is. She's an alien. That chick is an alien. You know who I'm talking about? The chick that was in oh fuck. She's been in a lot of stuff. I can't remember. Stoner brain, sorry. All right, fuck it. We're going to get stuck in this mode. We can't do this. Elizabeth Warren's wiki page is impressive. I don't know, man. It's a wiki page. They manipulate those wiki pages all the time. Just be careful. Just be careful. All right, let's get to it. All right, so Trump's fuckery with the immigration raids in Chicago the other day. Now, of course, that tour is heading to New York City, where U.S. launches major immigrant raids there. And this is Kristi Noem. She is the head of the Homeland Security now. She used to be the governor of South Dakota, I think. All right, let's get to this. Heavily armed U.S. law enforcement agents launched a series of pre-dawn raids across New York City yesterday morning, arresting scores of illegal immigrants suspected of violent crimes. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem oversaw Tuesday's operation in person on her fourth day on the job. We're in New York City this morning. We're getting dirt bags off these streets. Noem posted on the tweeters. In another post, she said the DHS was doing exactly what President Donald Trump promised the American people, making our streets safe. He's probably doing an Eric Adams and getting people off the streets, but what he's doing with them, where he's putting them, who knows? I wonder if kids in cages is going to come back. Remember that went away when Biden came in? All the kids were still in cages. Remember that? Noem shared several photos and videos of heavily armed officers at the Homeland Security Investigations, Immigrant and Customs Enforcement, so HSI and ICE, the U.S. Secret Service, DEA, U.S. Marshals, and the New York Police Department Special Operations Unit. So it started in Chicago, and now it's in New York. She identified one of the people detained by ICE early in the morning as a criminal alien with kidnapping, assault, and burglary charges. Another major catch was the 25-year-old Anderson Zambrano Pacheco, 25, allegedly the ringleader of the notorious Tren de Aragua, a Venezuelan gang accused of terrorizing residents in Colorado. Well, it's Colorado. They got enough weed there. They should be all right. Why are they terrorized? Oh, I don't know. Maybe that was probably Noem. She's fucking crazy. She probably shoots puppies. Pacheco was identified as one of the men captured on closed caption TV, closed circuit TV, not closed caption. I'm so stupid. Closed circuit TV forcing their way into an apartment last August. On Tuesday morning, heavily armed HSI agents stormed the Bronx apartments where he has lived for months. Neighbors told the New York Post that police broke down the door to get to Pacheco, who is wanted in Colorado for kidnapping, burglary, and menacing. According to one tenant, the Venezuelan moved to New York in September or October and was very cooperative, very friendly with the neighbors. Trump moved quickly after last Monday's inauguration to close the U.S.-Mexico border and launch immigration raids across the major U.S. cities. Like we said, Chicago already, describing the illegal presence of millions of foreigners as an invasion, even though we invaded this continent. But, that was a while back. The White House has also sought to deport thousands of convicted criminals to their countries of origin. Over the weekend, Colombia attempted to refuse a repatriation flight, but quickly backed down in the face of Trump's threats to impose sanctions and tariffs on the South American country. And that would have made prices of coffee go through the roof too, which it probably still will anyway, because somebody's gonna make some money off this shit. Who else is in here? Somebody else sneak in? Did anybody sneak in on our other channels? We've been still having some problems trying to go live on Facebook. And I think it keeps saying an error message. It doesn't say that I'm banned or anything like that, but I think it's their way of being sneaky, saying, well, try again, and you keep trying, and then you contact their support, and they don't get back to you. So I think it's their way of giving the old thumb in the pooper. Probably didn't need to hear that. It's a little too early for that kind of talk. I'm sorry. Anyway, but that's what it feels like. So, I think I got these out of order. Let me just check something here real quick. So, Trumpy is putting the freeze on a bunch of federal and foreign aid things too. So, but one of the things that got taken out was the Medicaid portals. But let's get to this first. Let's see if I can move this over. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. All right. So let's get to this. So, he's got a new press secretary. That's right. Or a press person. We'll see who this is. All right. So, U.S. judge temporarily blocks Trump administration's federal funding freeze. So, the White House defended Trump's decision as Democrats and nonprofit groups warned of devastating consequences. This is the new person who speaks, spokesperson Carolyn Levitt. Carolyn Levitt is going to be your new bad person to hate, folks. A U.S. judge has temporarily blocked an order from President Donald Trump to freeze funding for a wide range of federal programs. Tuesday's decision came shortly before Trump's directive was slated to come into effect at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. Critics had warned that the order could have disrupted education, healthcare, poverty reduction, and disaster relief schemes. Nevertheless, officials in Trump's government argued the funding freeze was necessary to ensure that all funding complies with Trump's priorities, including his crackdown on diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives, those DEI initiatives. The OMB, not orchestral maneuvers. Oh, that's OMD. Fuck, I fucked that joke up. Anyway, fuck it. The Office of Management and Budget, which oversees the federal budget, said in a memo that the freeze included any money intended for foreign aid, except for Israel and Egypt, and for non-governmental organizations, NGOs, among other categories. The White House said the pause would not impact Social Security and Medicare payments, nor assistance provided directly to individuals. That means, okay, so that's Medicare payments. All right, so we're going to talk about Medicaid in just a second. I mean, some food aid programs for the poor would not have been affected, sources told the Reuters news agency. But a funding freeze could affect trillions of dollars, at least temporarily, and cause potential interruptions in healthcare research, education programs, and other initiatives. Even grants that have been awarded but not spent are supposed to be halted under the order. What's up, Desert Mantis and Miguel? Look at you, you crazy broads. So already on Tuesday, state agencies and early education centers appear to be struggling to access money from Medicaid, a low-income health care program, and Head Start, scheme that provides early childhood support. 4 groups representing nonprofits, public health professionals, and small businesses filed the lawsuit that prompted the judge's decision on Tuesday. They argue Trump's order will have a devastating impact on hundreds of thousands of grant recipients, from pausing research on cures for childhood cancer to halting food assistance, safety from domestic violence, and closing suicide hotlines. The impact of even a short pause in funding could be devastating and cost lives. Diane Yentl, the president and CEO of the National Council of Nonprofits, said in a statement. Her group was among the 4 groups involved in Tuesday's lawsuit. U.S. District Judge Lauren Alicon ultimately ruled to pause Trump's order until a hearing on February 3rd. Democratic state attorneys general have also pledged to fight the order in court. That includes New York Attorney General Letitia James, who said she planned to ask a Manhattan federal court to block the Republican president's moves. My office will be taking imminent legal action against this administration's unconstitutional pause on federal funding, James said on social media. We won't sit idly by while this administration harms our families. Maxwell Alejandro Frost, a Democratic congressman from Florida, also said in a social media post that his team had been on the phone with multiple agencies and organizations that have been completely cut off from federal money. We're talking housing, homeless services, public safety, he wrote, warning that the freeze could have drastic local impacts. Senate Democratic leader Chuck Schumer said the Trump administration did not have the authority to prevent spending approved by the U.S. Congress. This decision is lawless, destructive, cruel, Schumer said in a speech to the Senate. It's American values that are going to suffer the most. The U.S. Constitution gives Congress control over spending matters, but Trump said during his campaign that he believes the president has the power to withhold money from programs he dislikes. Don't believe that's legal. Congressman Tom Emmer, one of the top Republicans in the House of Representatives, said Trump was simply following through on his campaign promises. I promised to get a puppy to everybody. You wake up one morning, there's a puppy. You're like, man, I don't want a fucking puppy. I mean, I do, but not from Trump. You need to understand he was elected to shake up the status quo. That is what he's going to do. It's not going to be business as usual, Emmer told reporters at a Republican policy retreat in Miami. I believe it is going to be business as usual. It's going to be Trump business as usual. So White House spokeswoman Caroline Leavitt also defended the administration's decision, like a good lackey that she is, telling reporters on Tuesday afternoon that Trump and his team were acting as good stewards of taxpayer dollars. This is not a blanket pause on federal assistance and grant programs from the Trump administration. Individual assistance that includes Social Security benefits, Medicare benefits, food stamps, welfare benefits, assistance that is going directly to individuals will not be impacted. Leavitt said the freeze means no more funding for illegal DEI programs. Look at that. They spell it with the MES, all fancy-ass European shit. Or for the new green scam, or the green new scam, a term Trump and his allies have used to describe measures taken by former President Joe Biden to address the climate crisis. It means no more funding for transgenderism and wokeness across our federal bureaucracy and agencies, she said. The Office of Management and Budget memo is the latest directive in Trump's push to dramatically reshape the federal government, the country's largest employer, since he took office on January 20th. Trump has taken dozens of executive actions since the start of his second term, including shuttering DEI programs and imposing a federal hiring freeze. Last week, the president also signed an executive order directing all federal government agencies to enact a 90-day pause on foreign assistance, except for Israel and Egypt, and to review existing programs. Days later, the U.S. State Department said in a memo that it was suspending almost all new funding for foreign aid programs, except for Israel and Egypt, with exceptions for the country's top Middle East allies Israel and Egypt. I think I said that. As part of that aid suspension, the administration has moved to stop the distribution of drugs for HIV, malaria, and tuberculosis. Stop the distribution. Okay, that's good. As well as medical supplies for newborn babies in countries supported by the United States Agency for International Development, which is USAID. That is an NGO as well. The U.S. is the largest single donor of aid globally, dispersing $72 billion in 2023 alone. Yes. So freeze, unless you got a Z and an ionist in your in your name there. So yeah, with all that, like we said, Medicaid is the NGO and Medicare is the federal, right? So Medicaid payment portals were down across all 50 states after Trump's order. This is from Common Dreams and Julia Conley. Nice lady there. She does good work for these guys. The only problem I have with Common Dreams, they do good work, but they tend to get the Trump derangement syndrome. If it's a story about Trump, I tend to stay away from it, but because they're just like, they get too much into their feelings. So, anyway, I'm just saying, always be critical of your sources, even if they're good sources. Every day is a new day, and every day is a new day for fuckery. It can affect anyone. Ask your doctor if fuckery is right for you. Levitt speaks British. Nobody speaks British. That's a made-up language. White House Press Secretary Carolyn Levitt dodged the question numerous times during the Trump administration's first press briefing on Tuesday. Will Medicaid be one of the federal programs impacted by the Office of Management and Budget's recently announced funding freeze on grants and loans? Levitt told reporters numerous times that funds that go to individuals will not be affected by the OMB's order, and said she would get a full list of the impacted programs to the press after the briefing, refusing to answer when one journalist pointed out that many impacted programs pass on benefits to people. So Levitt's talking about those federal programs like Medicare, but not Medicaid. When one reporter asked if she was guaranteeing here that no individual now on Medicaid would see a cutoff because of the policy, Levitt said she would check back on that. Let me get back to you on that. When I worked in radio, people would call up and they would request songs. If we really liked the song, we say, "Oh yeah, hell yeah, we're going to do that." But if it was a song we didn't have or didn't think we had, or really we just didn't want to play, we would say, "You know what, let me see what I can do for you, okay?" And then we hang up and we would play the fucking song. Anyway, I don't know why I shared that with you, but that's what that sounded like. But before the briefing was over, numerous Democratic lawmakers were sharing reports that Medicaid portals in all 50 states were in fact down. Just confirmed that the Trump administration shut down the Medicaid portals for Florida, said U.S. Representative Maxwell Alejandro Frost, the Democrat there in Florida. There are over 3.8 million Floridians on Medicaid. Senator Chris Murphy, a Democrat out of Connecticut, confirmed that Medicaid's payment system has been turned off in Connecticut, with doctors and hospitals unable to be compensated for care provided to low-income people, children, and people with disabilities who receive health care through the program, while Senator Martin Heinrich, Democrat out of New Mexico, said the same about New Mexico. On the Payment Management Services, PMS, Payment Management Services website at the Department of Health and Human Services, a message read, "Payment delays due to executive orders regarding potentially unallowable grant payments. PMS is taking additional measures to process payments. Reviews of applicable programs and payments will result in delays and or rejections of payments." Senator Ron Wyden said his staff had, out of Oregon, said his staff had confirmed that Medicaid portals in all 50 states were affected by the order, which the OMB said was driven by the Trump administration's desire to ensure federal resources are not used to advance Marxistic equity, transgenderism, and Green New Deal social engineering policies. We don't want none of that commie shit. Noting that 41% of all births in the U.S. are covered by Medicaid, Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, you know her as AOC, Poppy, emphasized that the entire Republican Party is backing this illegal sabotage. I can't stand it. I know you planned it. But telling all of y'all it's illegal sabotage, freezing funds that provide nearly 80 million people with health care coverage, as well as those that keep Head Start, early childhood education programs, clinical cancer research trials, food assistance for senior citizens, and homeless shelters running. Overnight, Republicans... Wait, this is her saying it? Overnight, Republicans are destroying health care for millions of Americans, and it isn't just Donald Trump, said AOC in that awful voice that I'm not going to do again. They are all in on it, every one of them. She wore that tinfoil hat. You're in on it, you're in on it, you're in on it. You're crazy, man, you're crazy. What's up, Franco? Good morning, sir. Good morning, sir. In a video posted to social media, Murphy accused Trump of a brazen, I like when they use these words, brazen, transparent effort to seize power. Speaking of words, just a little sidebar here. I found out what glazed meant. These kids that say that he was glazing me or she was glazing me. Apparently that means you're paying a lot of compliments to somebody, you know, like you're just gushing over them or something, you know, just saying nice things. So, but kids, you got to watch out who you say that to, because glazing back in my day meant something totally different. Sidebar, just talking about words there. So, in a video posted to social media, Murphy accused Trump of a brazen, transparent effort to seize power, marked by his pardon of more than 1,000 people who stormed the U.S. Capitol to try to overturn his 2020 election laws. And his firing of at least a dozen inspectors general, as well as his government funding shutdown. Yeah, so, yeah, and the people who stormed the Capitol, I've seen worse violence on Black Friday at Walmart, okay? Come on. This is an immediate crisis for kids, for public safety, for our seniors, for our healthcare system, said Murphy. And why? Because Donald Trump is trying to seize power. AOC agreed, saying Trump's order has thrown the country into a constitutional crisis. Trump is holding all the nation's hospitals and vital services hostage to seize power from Congress and hand it over to billionaires, said the Congresswoman. It's a massive illegal power grab that the House and Senate have a sworn duty to stop. Yeah. We could have done that several years ago, but, you know, y'all decided to, you know, cuck up and support a drunk lady who, you know, whose husband likes to get his head bashed in with hammers. Anyway, whatever. Seriously, if you still think politics on the national level is going to do any good for anybody on the local level, no, that's wishful thinking. I appreciate your positivity, but sometimes reality has to trump that. So speaking of Trump, he's got a new Treasury Secretary. Who's this rich motherfucker? Turns out, Senate confirms billionaire hedge fund manager Besant as Treasury Secretary. Because sure, why not? And let's look what the scumbag looks like. There he is. His fucking $600 haircut, piece of shit. Government watchdog groups on Monday responded critically to the U.S. Senate's bipartisan confirmation of Republican President Donald Trump's nominee for Treasury Secretary, billionaire hedge fund manager Scott Bessent. Donald Trump spent months promising American workers they'd have no greater friend and advocate than him, but his first order of business as president-elect was to nominate a stack of corporate lobbyists, billionaire donors, and Wall Street insiders like Scott Bessent to carry out a wealthy first workers last agenda, said Accountable.us Executive Director Tony Kark in a statement after the 68-29 vote. You're like, all these people like, who keep, saying, well, y'all voted for Jill Stein, and that's why he got all them judges. And now you get all these judges in. The Democrats helped convert. They didn't fight him on any of these. Maybe the defense secretary, but that's it. Another giant Trump tax giveaway to price gouging corporations won't lift up working people, but it will put Social Security and Medicare at risk. Carr continued. A national Trump sales tax won't be much help to working families when it results in thousands of dollars in extra costs every year. Bissett is so enthusiastic about the Trump trickle-down economic plan. See, it never stopped the Reagan Revolution. It's been Reagan president since Reagan. So Bissett is so enthusiastic about the Trump trickle-down economic plans because it keeps the system rigged in favor of wealthy insiders like him, while everyday Americans pay the price. Wasn't that the Philly victory score? Philly beat the fuck out of the Redskins. But yeah, Redskins shouldn't have been that good. But man, they got their shit together. So wish my Saints could. Recalling congressional Republicans and Trump's massive tax cuts for the rich during his first term, Groundwork Collaborative Executive Director Lindsay Owens declared Monday that a billionaire hedge fund manager who doesn't pay his own taxes is now Trump's right-hand man for another massive tax break for the ultra-wealthy. The president is filling his cabinet with one goal in mind: more tax giveaways for the wealthy and corporations. And Peralt, senior finance policy counsel with Public Citizens, said in a Monday statement that Scott Bissett is an oligarch who spent a career serving rich clients. He will need to make a hard pivot towards understanding that sound policy must serve average Americans. Yeah, good luck with that. Included by saving banks and achieving a fair tax system. A fair tax system? What are you smoking, lady? Under Bissett, the Treasury Department appears poised to attend only the largest lenders, poised to attend only to the largest lenders and investors, Peralt warned. This is in contrast to the past 4 years where the department took necessary, though insufficient, steps to address climate change as a unique existential risk for the planet that will affect every aspect of our lives and the lives of our children, and in turn pose a tremendous risk to our country's financial stability. By ignoring climate change as a financial risk, Trump's Treasury Department under Bissett is on a path that could devastate hard-working families. They don't care about hard-working families. They just care about the hard-working families' votes. Ahead of the vote, a coalition of other watchdogs on Monday launched a no corporate cabinet website raising the alarm about persons of interest selected to serve in the second Trump administration, including Bissett. The site describes him as a former investor for billionaire George Soros, who made a name for himself by bringing down the British economy in the Black Wednesday scandal of the 1990s, and pointed to investments in fossil fuel companies, along with Meta, Monsanto, and Palantir. Oh, yes, the trifecta of evil. Very nice. During his confirmation hearing earlier this month, Bissett said that he did not believe the federal minimum wage of just $7.25 an hour should be raised, and promoted a 3-3-3 agenda that analysts at the Center for American Progress, CAP, warned requires brutal cuts to health and nutrition and higher costs for families at grocery stores. After the Senate's Monday vote, Bissett said on social media that as Treasury Secretary, I'm committed to eliminating income taxes, replacing them with a fair consumption tax, and adopting a gold-backed currency. Will erase debt, restore financial privacy, and unlock new technologies for a prosperous future. The golden age starts now. We'll also go back to horse and buggies and having separate water fountains for people, apparently. They probably would if they had their druthers. Progressives have argued against a so-called fair consumption tax or a national sales tax because of its impacts, which CAP analysts explained in 2023 in response to Representative Earl Buddy Carter's Fair Tax Act, which he reintroduced earlier this month. By shifting the foundation of the federal tax system from income to consumption, the Fair Tax Act, that's hard to say, would cut taxes for the wealthy while increasing taxes paid by low and middle income retirees who live off of Social Security and savings, as well as families who would be forced to pay more taxes on everyday goods and services, the CAP experts wrote. Meanwhile, high-income families who spend less of their income on consumption and who have sufficient earnings to save a substantial fraction of their income will pay a smaller share of their income in tax. Politico reported that Bissett on Monday garnered significantly more Democratic support than Trump's first Treasury Secretary, Steven Mnuchin. Remember that fucker? The Senate confirmed Mnuchin in 2017 on a 53-47 vote in which then-Senator Joe Manchin was the only Democrat who backed him. Manchin later became an independent before leaving Congress at the end of the last session. Oh, so no Joe Manchin. Oh, it's too bad. Bissett is the fifth cabinet member to be confirmed by the Senate since Trump took office a week ago. The closest vote was on the Pentagon chief, Pete Hegseth. They had a 50-50 tie that was broken by the Vice President, J.D. Vance. So it's all shaping up for fuckery, and it's not like people weren't warned, right? And you said, well, we should have voted for Joe Biden, and you wouldn't get all this stuff. It's like you were still getting evil and fuckery. You're just getting Trump's version of evil and fuckery this time. But it's not like people were saying that, oh, it's going to be better this time. Trump's going to be... The people who are saying that are cultists and people who don't pay attention to shit. If they thought the shit was going to be better this time around, after seeing what happened the last time, after knowing now that you know that none of these, not that Orange Man bad or, Sleepy Joe, none of these people are running the shit. It's the people around them, the people above them that's running the shit. Until they figure that out, they're still going to be like, Trump did good. Yay! Yeah. In spite of his shortcomings, Biden had his moments. The thing with the stairs, that was probably the best. They tried to get Trump on this ramp thing where he was going down slow. He's going down real slow. Yeah, but at least he ain't busting his ass. I don't like Trump, but, come on. Biden going up that stairs up to the plane and just kept falling. Come on, man. That's some fucking Gerald Ford shit, man. I remember that. So, Trump being the petty bitch that he is, he's pretty much axed everybody at the Justice Department. U.S. Justice Department officials involved in Trump prosecutions axed, sacked, fired, canned, 86th. The U.S. Justice Department fired a number of officials on Monday who were involved in the criminal prosecutions of President Donald Trump. Acting Attorney General James McHenry made this decision because he did not believe these officials could be trusted to faithfully implement the president's agenda because of their significant role in prosecuting the president, a Justice Department official said. The official did not specify how many people had their employment terminated, but U.S. media outlets said it was more than a dozen, and several were career prosecutors with the Justice Department. Special counsel Jack Smith, who brought 2 federal cases against Trump, resigned earlier this month because he knew that he was going to come in and shit can everybody. Smith charged Trump with plotting to overturn the results of the 2020 election and mishandling classified documents after leaving the White House. Neither case came to trial, and Smith, in line with a longstanding Justice Department policy of not prosecuting a sitting president, dropped them both after the Republican won November's presidential election. Kind of weird what would happen if Trump had actually lost. If they'd be like doing this whole trial thing right now. The firing of the Justice Department officials involved in prosecuting Trump was not unexpected. Trump had vowed before the election to fire Smith on day one and accused the Justice Department under Democratic President Joe Biden of conducting a political witch hunt against him. Well, you can't help him. He probably thought you were a witch because you look like a fucking jack-o'-lantern, you Halloween-looking motherfucker. In his inauguration speech, Trump said he would end the vicious, violent, and unfair weaponization of the Justice Department and our government. Well, at least the Democratic version of the vicious, violent, and unfair weaponization. But the Republican Trump version, delicious. In his final report, Smith said Trump would have been convicted for his criminal efforts to retain power after the 2020 election if the case had not been dropped. Trump was charged with conspiracy to defraud the U.S. and conspiracy to obstruct an official proceeding, the session of Congress held to certify Biden's win that was violently attacked on January 6, 2021 by a mob of Trump protesters. Smith also prepared a report into Trump's alleged mishandling of classified documents, but it's being withheld because charges are pending against two of his former co-defendants. Trump faces separate racketeering charges in Georgia over his efforts to subvert the election results in that southern state, but the case will likely be frozen while he's in office. Trump was convicted in New York in May of falsifying business records to cover up hush money payments to a porn star. The judge who presided over the case gave him an unconditional discharge, which is sometimes what I have, when I'm watching some racy movies, which carries no jail time, fine, or probation. So basically nothing happened to him. So there you have it. Trumpy making a poopy mess. He's making a poopy mess, but we knew he was going to do that. That's why when you're not in a cult, you can see things. You can see all the fuckery around you, right? It's like being in a cult. It's like when you can't breathe out of your nose, you can't smell anything, right? But then like when you get out of the cult, your nose opens, and then you can smell. And you're like, holy shit, man! Somebody just ripped a fart in this elevator. But now you, yeah. I still feel Trump is a plan. Yeah, sure. Just like Biden. I mean, Biden was he was an obvious plant. They had nobody else. And Trump's a plant. Trump's just a loudmouth to make you think he's his own man, but he's not his own fucking man. Oh, there's one more Trump fuckery story. Sorry. Trump removes National Labor Relations Board General Counsel and Democratic board member. In a radical shakeup of the federal agency tasked with protecting the right of private sector employees to organize, U.S. President Donald Trump on Monday fired two key leaders at the NLRB. Trump ousted General Counsel Jennifer Abruzzo and, in a less expected and legally dubious move, also removed Democratic NLRB member Gwen Wilcox. Wilcox's position is protected by federal law, which states that board members can only be fired for neglect or malfeasance, per Bloomberg. The firm SpaceX, which was founded by Elon Musk, has challenged the protections shielding NLRB members from being removed, arguing they are unconstitutional. Other companies such as Trader Joe's and Amazon have also challenged the constitutionality of the agency. Washington Post reporter Lauren Corey Gurley remarked that Wilcox's unprecedented firing could bring cases filed by SpaceX, Amazon challenging NLRB constitutionality to the U.S. Supreme Court. Abruzzo was generally considered one of the most union-friendly figures to serve as general counsel in recent decades. After being tapped as the board's lead prosecutor by then-President Biden in 2021, Abruzzo prosecuted complaints against companies like Starbucks, Amazon, and Tesla, and under her leadership, the board adopted a more worker-friendly framework for determining when companies must bargain with unions without an election. Whoever takes over as NLRB General Counsel, which during Trump's first term was former management side labor lawyer Peter Robb, will have discretion over which sorts of cases the agency prosecutes. Oh boy. Abruzzo's tenure was due to last until July, though her firing by Trump was widely expected. She did not, however, preemptively leave her post, which drew praise from one observer. Not unexpected, I'm glad that Abruzzo didn't roll over, but instead forced Trump, the supposed champion of working people, to fire the most pro-union government official since Francis Perkins. Let him own it, wrote reporter Jordan Zakarin on the tweeters. Well, yeah, she knows. If you get fired, then you get unemployment. If you don't get fired, you don't get unemployment. Duh. Basil Musharbash. I fucked up that name, but I just got looped by Basil. Basil Musharbash, an antitrust and trade regulation lawyer, compared Abruzzo to the leaders of the FTC, the Department of Justice's Antitrust Division, and the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau under Biden. Jennifer Abruzzo was in the same league as Linda Khan, Jonathan Cantor, and Rohit Chopra, dusting off labor laws that have been sitting on the shelf for decades to protect and empower workers. Musharbash said Trump shouldn't have fired her. He should have reappointed her. Well, yeah, because she was doing a good job. That's why he didn't want her in there. Wilcox's dismissal was less expected, especially given that there were enough vacant seats on the board to allow Trump to nominate a Republican majority, according to Bloomberg. The board is now without a quorum and can no longer issue decisions. Oh, boy. I wonder how long that's going to last. Wilcox was appointed to the NLRB in 2021 and was reconfirmed by the Senate for a second term in 2023. That term was slated to last through 2028. She is also a previous chair of the board. As the first black woman board member, I brought a unique perspective that I believe will be lost upon my unprecedented and illegal removal, Wilcox said in a statement to Bloomberg. Did I say Bloomberg? It will be pursuing all legal avenues to challenge my removal, which violates longstanding Supreme Court precedent. One organizer in Brooklyn remarked the oligarchy is thrilled with this move. Oh, boy. Jeff Hauser, head of Revolving Door Project on Tweeters, wrote on the Tweeters that this is 100% different than Abruzzo. Trump firing Abruzzo is substantively evil, but he is the president of, by, and for the bosses and has that power. Firing Wilcox is a constitutional crisis. So he's like he's cleaning out all the Biden people. That doesn't mean he's cleaning up the swamp, though, right? Because there were some swampy people in there too. So meanwhile, let's shift over here. We go into the Atlantic, talking about Greenland, which is not necessarily green so much because it's just covered with a lot of ice. It is, right? Basil, thank you. Zelle, you and I are always on the same thought train, heading in the right direction, right? Gonna stop off at the bar, have a couple of beers. Basil. Yes, hello, Basil. Basil, fetch us our grommets of wine. I don't know grommets. I don't know what that is. Anyway, let's get back to this. So, Trump's been saying some dumb shit about Greenland, like he wants to take it over or whatever. And meanwhile, the EU and and NATO are just like, what? Nothing to see here. EU, NATO take vow of silence on Greenland. She's like, what? That's Denmark's Prime Minister, Mette Frederiksen. Mette? She's like, what? You want Greenland? You stupid. Let me get this story here. A Financial Times report on Tuesday revealed that the EU and NATO agreed to remain silent on Greenland following a request from Denmark, which urged its allies not to respond to Donald Trump's threats to acquire the Arctic island. As mentioned in the report, Copenhagen's approach of sidestepping public confrontation with Trump, closely coordinated with NATO and the EU, according to 4 officials, highlights the challenge faced by U.S. allies in navigating the U.S. president's combative diplomatic tactics. It's worth mentioning that Trump engaged in a tense 45-minute phone call with Denmark's prime minister last week, plunging Copenhagen into what officials described as crisis mode. He also threatened to impose tariffs on Denmark and did not rule out the possibility of seizing Greenland by force. Trump reaffirmed over the weekend that he will get Greenland while ridiculing Copenhagen's defense capabilities, sarcastically referring to the reliance on dog sleighs to protect the island, which houses the largest U.S. military presence in the Arctic. I don't know. Santa's got a pretty good army up there too. The U.S., a NATO ally of Denmark, shares a mutual defense agreement, while the EU's treaty includes a similar clause. Initially, Danish and EU officials viewed Trump's Greenland comments as a tactic for influence in the Arctic amid rising Russian and Chinese interests, according to the report. However, they now see the issue as more serious with global implications if NATO or the EU fail to condemn a sovereignty violation by an ally. Despite this, officials have opted to downplay public discussion, fearing that openly challenging Trump could worsen the crisis. Yeah, you get tariffs. That's what it is. You get a tariff. You get a tariff. You get a tariff. You get a tariff. A low profile seems to be the safest bet with Trump. Hopefully he will be distracted by something else. One senior European official says, "Look, Trump, something shiny. Look, it's shiny." And he's like, "Let me tell you something. I just, that is shiny. I love it. I love shiny. Shiny makes me want to look at it." Every time I do my Trump impression, it always turns into Floyd in the Floyd the Barber post-stroke, which I don't mean to do. Another senior EU official said, "We believe a tit-for-tat giggity approach is not useful, but we all stand by our basic principles such as national sovereignty and territorial integrity that must be respected. We are ready, and the Danes know that, to reaffirm that whenever needed." Frederickson will embark on a swift diplomatic tour starting yesterday, meeting German Chancellor Olaf Scholz in Berlin, French President Emmanuel Macron in Paris, and NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte in Brussels. On Sunday, she met with her Norwegian and Swedish counterparts and Finland's president in Copenhagen, where Greenland was a topic of discussion. No joint declaration was issued after the meeting, nor have there been attempts to coordinate NATO or EU statements in defense of Denmark or Greenland. Behind the scenes, senior officials in Brussels, Copenhagen, and Nuuk are discussing ways to strengthen the EU's partnership with Greenland on critical raw materials extraction and energy, according to two European officials familiar with the talks, as cited by the report. "There's a lot of discrete work going on right now to see how we can strengthen cooperation with Greenland," said one of the officials. They added the EU wanted to avoid appearing like the EU was making an offer after years of inaction because Trump has put in on the agenda. Frederickson's government is doing the right thing in communicating to the Americans in a firm but polite way, said Rasmus Jarlov, a former Danish minister and current MP from the opposition Conservative Party. "It's a good idea not to engage in verbal exchanges with the Trump administration. It's a good idea to talk to allies in the rest of Europe. Europe should stand together if the situation should escalate," he added. The report mentioned that some officials have expressed concerns over whether Europe could mount a credible response if Trump follows through on his threats regarding Greenland. "I'm not saying there's no plan," said the second European officials, "but we don't really have an alternative approach." Well, the easiest thing the EU could do, if they want to halt the advance of the United States, is just bomb all of the McDonald's in the United States. Take out the McDonald's, make sure there's nobody in there. You want to take out the infrastructure is what I'm saying. And then when you don't have those delicious fat burgers to put in your face, then America will fall by the wayside. It'll be easy pickings, and it'll be just like Red Dawn, and everybody will come in and have a good time. On us, the United States. Speaking of the United States, the Senate may be doing something good. I don't know. You decide. U.S. Senate blocks bill to sanction ICC over Israel arrest warrants. You're probably, well, those arrest warrants don't mean anything, so what the fuck is this about? Well, I'm going to fucking tell you. How about that? U.S. Senate Democrats yesterday voted down a Republican-led bill to sanction the International Criminal Court, citing concerns that the legislation... thank you, Windows Defender, for defending me. Citing concerns that the legislation could be used against U.S. companies and interests. The ICC bill is one I largely support and would like to see become law, Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer said on the Senate floor ahead of the vote. However, this is Schumer talking. "The ICC bill is one I largely support and would like to see become law. However, as much as I oppose the ICC bias against Israel, as much as I want to see that institution drastically reformed and reshaped, the bill before us is poorly drafted and deeply problematic." And I told you I met Chuck Schumer. I didn't meet him. I passed him on the street in Brooklyn. And I gave him this look like, and he was like, he was surrounded by an entourage of old people. I think I could have taken him. Senate Republicans failed to get the 60 votes needed to move the bill forward with a final tally of 54 to 45. According to The Hill, opposition senators reportedly sought to negotiate a bipartisan compromise on the bill to shield America's allies and U.S. companies contracting with the court from getting swept up in sanctions. Earlier this month, the U.S. House of Representatives voted 247 to 155 to approve the bill that sanctioned ICC officials in response to the court issuing an arrest warrant for fuckhead over the U.S.-sponsored genocide of Palestinians in Gaza. The legislation proposes sanctions for any foreigner who helps the ICC in its attempts to investigate. You can't even investigate, detain, or prosecute a U.S. citizen or citizen of an allied country that does not recognize the court's authority. You can't even investigate, son. The ICC arrest warrants accused Netanyahu and former Defense Minister Yoav Gallant of committing war crimes against Palestinians, including starvation as a weapon in Gaza. Tel Aviv and Washington argued in response that the ICC does not have jurisdiction to try the Israeli leaders because they could theoretically be tried in an Israeli court, which is about like saying the police are going to who murder somebody, then there's, you know what, we'll just investigate it ourselves. Everything will be fine. So here we are now as we get into the news of the day in Israel. Same as it ever was. New Israeli airstrikes hit South Lebanon in violation of ceasefire extension. So they violated the ceasefire when it was just a regular ceasefire. Now that it's been extended to the 3rd of February, I think, or 6th. Israeli warplanes launched new airstrikes on the southern Lebanese city of Nabatea late yesterday, injuring at least 24 people, mere days after Beirut accepted a U.S.-mandated extension of the ceasefire. According to Al Mayadeen's correspondent in South Lebanon, an Israeli drone bombed a civilian vehicle in one of the attacks. It was Hamas. Oh, sorry, Hezbollah. It's Lebanon. It was Hezbollah. The new attacks came hours after Lebanese families flocked for the 3rd day in a row to the occupied border region, demanding to return to their homes. Earlier on Tuesday, the Lebanese army announced its troops entered the town of Yaran in Bint Jabil, the villages of Maruhin and Birkat Rika in Tyr district, and other border areas south of the Litani River after the withdrawal of the Israeli army. Man, that was a gauntlet of names. Jesus Christ. The army said the deployment took place in coordination with the 5-member committee supervising the ceasefire agreement, stressing that it continues to monitor the citizens in the border towns and continues to coordinate closely with the UN interim force in Lebanon, that's UNIFIL, regarding the situation in the aforementioned area with the framework of Resolution 1701. The triad of the people, the army, and resistance was what prevented Israel from reaching Beirut, Hezbollah Secretary General Naim Qassem said during a speech on Monday, adding that the Lebanese resistance rejects any notion of extending the ceasefire, asserting, "We do not accept an extension, not even for one day. We are facing an occupier that assaults and refuses to withdraw, and the resistance has the right to act as it deems appropriate in terms of the nature, form, and timing of the confrontation," he added. Residents of southern Lebanon border villages who were displaced during the war started returning to their towns on January 26th upon the expiration of the 60-day ceasefire implementation period. Pushing into their towns alongside the Lebanese army, residents of the south confronted Israeli troops, filming themselves standing in front of tanks and soldiers and shouting slogans at the Israeli forces. They also ignored the Lebanese army's warnings against entering certain areas still occupied by the invading soldiers. The arrangement between Lebanon and Israel, monitored by the U.S., will continue to be in effect until February 18th, the White House announced in a statement on Sunday. The government of Lebanon, the government of Israel, and the government of the U.S. will also begin negotiations for the return of Lebanese prisoners captured by Israel after October 7th, 2023. The statement added. Yeah. So good news for Palestinian journalist that was being held in Switzerland. Y'all may have been following this on the tweeters or whatever. Switzerland deports Palestinian American journalist Ali Abunimah. Abunimah, is that how you say it? That's how I'm saying it. Fuck it. Palestinian American journalist Ali Abunimah has confirmed that Swiss authorities have released and deported him after holding him for 3 days. Abunimah, the executive director of the Electronic Intifada publication, suggested in a social media post on Monday that Switzerland detained him because of his advocacy for Palestinian rights. My crime being a journalist who speaks up for Palestine and against Israel's genocide and settler colonial savagery and those who aid and abet it, he wrote. Abunimah was arrested in Zurich on Saturday before he was set to deliver a speech in the city, sparking outrage from Palestinian rights advocates. The Swiss embassy in Washington, D.C. did not immediately respond to Al Jazeera's request for comment. The Reuters news agency reported on Sunday that the Swiss police cited an entry ban and other measures under the country's immigration law as the reason for Abunimah's arrest. The Palestinian-American journalist said that when he was questioned by police officers, they accused him of offending against Swiss law without providing specific charges. He said he was cut off from communication with the outside world in a cell 24 hours a day, adding that he was unable to contact his family. He added that he was only given back his phone at the gate of the plane that flew him to Istanbul, not Constantinople. It's Istanbul, not Constantinople. Abunimah noted that during the period when he was taken to prison like a dangerous criminal, Switzerland welcomed Israeli President Isaac Herzog to the World Economic Forum in Davos. Herzog has sparked controversy for his stance on Israel's war on Gaza, which has killed more than 47,000 Palestinians. He previously said that there are no uninvolved civilians in Gaza. Everyone's Hamas. This ordeal lasted 3 days, but that taste of prison was more than enough to leave me in even greater awe of the Palestinian heroes who endure months and years in the prisons of the genocidal oppressor, Abunimah said. More than ever, I know that the debt we owe them is one we can never repay, and all of them must be free, and they must remain our focus. And there he is right there. UN experts had decried Abunimah's detention as an assault on free speech. Irene Khan, a UN special rapporteur for freedom of opinion and expression, described Abunimah's arrest as shocking news on Saturday and urged his release. Francesca Albanese, the UN special rapporteur on human rights in the occupied Palestinian territories, also called for an investigation into the incident. The climate surrounding freedom of speech in Europe is becoming increasingly toxic, and we should all be concerned, Albanese wrote in a social media post. Abunimah's detention came amid an increased clampdown on pro-Palestine voices in Europe amid the war on Gaza, which UN experts have compared with genocide. In April, Germany shut down a conference for Palestinian rights advocates and denied entry to the British doctor Ghassan Abu Sitta, who had worked in Gaza. Activists have also accused German authorities of cracking down on protests throughout the war. In October last year, British counterterrorism police raided the home of Abunimah's Electronic Intifada colleague, Asa Winstanley, an incident that the Committee to Protect Journalists, CPJ, said was part of a disturbing pattern of weaponizing counterterrorism laws against reporters. Months earlier, British authorities held journalist Richard Medhurst, who is vocally critical of Israeli policies, for 24 hours. As he arrived in London, Medhurst said on Saturday that the terrorism investigation against him was extended until May. In Gaza, Israel has killed 205 journalists since the start of the war in October 2023, according to local authorities. So at least he was deported. He wasn't killed. And, but still, those journalists over there who are doing all the work for us over here and helping to inform us, because, as always, the mainstream media is sugarcoating this to make whoever look better. They don't say that Palestinians were murdered. They said they died suddenly, like, like they did with the COVID shit. It died suddenly. So, meanwhile, they're getting aid, trying to get aid back into Gaza, but it looks like UNRWA is not going to be a part of that, as they're still considered a terrorist organization in Israel. UNRWA gets ready to shutter operations in East Jerusalem after Israeli ban. So, tens of thousands of Palestinian refugees in Israeli-occupied East Jerusalem were set to lose education, health care, and other services provided by UNRWA as an Israeli ban on the organization takes effect tomorrow. Israel's government ordered UNRWA to vacate its East Jerusalem compound and cease operations under a law passed last year outlawing the agency and prohibiting Israeli authorities from having contact with it. At UNRWA's offices in East Jerusalem's Sheikh Jarrah neighborhood, workers were packing boxes and loading portable buildings onto a truck on Monday. It's an unacceptable decision, said Jonathan Fowler, a spokesperson for UNRWA, formerly titled the United Nations Relief and Workers Agency for Palestine Refugees in the Near East, which is why they shortened it to UNRWA, because that is a mouthful. The people that we serve, we are not able to tell them what is going to happen to our services as of the end of this week. Israel has not announced provisions for replacing UNRWA's activities, and the Israeli Prime Minister's office did not immediately respond to a request for comment. UNRWA has for decades run schools and clinics in East Jerusalem, the eastern part of the city that Israel has occupied since the 1967 war, for tens of thousands of Palestinian refugees who have no nationality. We have everything here for us. When I heard that it will close, I was very sad, because here is a place for people in need and for people who don't have money to pay for medications, refugee Sarah Said said at the UNRWA Medical Center in Jerusalem's Old City. Medical Center Director Hamza Al-Jibrini said the facility serves 30,000 refugees. Among them are patients with diabetes and high blood pressure, pregnant women, and children who receive vaccinations, said head of nursing Manal Al-Kayat. Where they will go, she asked. Good question. Israel's ban only directly covers Israeli territory, which Israel considers East Jerusalem to be. UNRWA also operates in the occupied West Bank and Gaza, but it was unclear how the law will affect work there. UNRWA was established some 75 years ago, serving around 750,000 Palestinian refugees from the 1948 war at the time of the creation of the State of Israel. Its sprawling headquarters are in a prime position not far from Jerusalem's Old City, which is home to sites holy to Christians, Jews, and Muslims. The agency has long been a thorn in the eye of Israeli governments that consider the agency fundamentally hostile to Israel. That's why they named them a terrorist organization. Israel says UNRWA's continued existence decades after the 1948 war has consolidated the refugee status of generations of Palestinians who now number in the millions, and has frozen the conflict in place. Israel regularly accuses the agency of anti-Israel bias and has also claimed its staff includes members of Hamas, the Palestinian militant group that launched the deadly cross-border raid on Israel on October 7th. Israel calls for UNRWA's responsibilities to be taken over by other UN bodies such as its main refugee agency, Roth's Children. Yes. The UN rejects accusations of bias and says that UNRWA's expertise is irreplaceable, particularly in Gaza. A UN investigation found that 9 UNRWA staff may have been involved in the Hamas attack. The agency fired them, but said Israel had not provided evidence of more widespread involvement by its staff. UNRWA employs around 30,000 people in the region and some 13,000 in the Gaza Strip. More than 200 UNRWA staff have been killed in Gaza, the agency said, since the Gaza war started. Around 1,200 Israelis and foreigners were killed in the October 7th attack, and another 250 were taken hostage into Gaza, Israel, and Israel into Gaza, Israel says. And then there's over 47,000 people have been killed. And you already know that part there. So, yeah, I had no idea they had been there since the Nakba. That's crazy. No wonder they've been trying to get rid of them. They've been a thorn in their side for their whole existence. That's crazy. Coffee break. How's everybody doing? You get a little sippy poo? You guys have your morning beverage? Who's drinking alcohol at work? I know one of you is. You don't have to say it, but I know who it is. As the fuckery continues in Syria, right? They're carving it up like a Thanksgiving turkey. The Israeli war chief has confirmed their army, the IDF, will indefinitely occupy Syria, southern Syria, indefinitely, forever. Israeli Defense Minister Israel Katz announced yesterday that the army will indefinitely occupy the Syrian side of Mount Hermon and other areas in South Syria. One moment, please. The IDF will remain at the summit of the Hermon, and they call it the Hermon, and the security zone indefinitely to ensure the security of the communities of the Golan Heights and the north and all the residents of Israel, Katz said during a visit to the occupied Syrian territory. We will not allow hostile forces to establish themselves in the security zone in southern Syria. We will act against any threat, he said. Katz also said that Tel Aviv will make contact with friendly populations in the southern Syria area, with an emphasis on the large Druze community, which has historic and close family relations with our Druze brothers in Israel. Earlier this month, Hebrew media reported the government plans to establish a control zone 15 kilometers deep inside Syria and an intelligence sphere of influence extending 60 kilometers. Ooh, a sphere of influence. You mean a bubble? Israel illegally occupied parts of the Golan Heights during the Six-Day War in 1967. Tel Aviv and Damascus signed a disengagement agreement after the October War in 1973, establishing a demilitarized buffer zone between the armed forces of both sides. Immediately following the ousting of President Bashar al-Assad on December 8th by former ISIS and al-Qaeda commanders, Israel expanded its occupation of Syrian territory. The occupying Israeli forces established 6 military points in Syria's Quneitra governorate, including in the town of Hadar, the village of Kurz al-Nafar, and al-Tulul al-Hamar in the northern governorate, the town of al-Hamadiyah, the town of Kadna, and another near al-Mantara Dam in the south. After the fall of Damascus, Israel also carried out a massive bombing campaign to destroy virtually all the Syrian army's heavy weapons and infrastructure. Syria's de facto ruler, HTS leader Ahmad al-Sharaa, has stated that the new Syrian government poses no threat to Israel, adding that now that Iran's military presence in Syria is a thing of the past, Israel no longer has an excuse for occupying Syrian land. So basically they're saying, yeah, well, Iran's gone. We want to thank you for all the help. You were a big helper, Israel, but, we're good now. So now we can, so you guys can go. But we really do thank you. You were like super duper. And Israel's like, we're not done yet. So that's basically how that is. And HTS is like, okay, all right, okay. So over the weekend, Belarus, can you do the Fandango, held their election and re-elected Lukashenko. And before I show his picture, I just want to say that Lukashenko looks like Scotty from Star Trek if he was still alive today. That's all I'm going to say. As we throw this up, there's Putin and Xi hail Lukashenko's victory in Belarus election amid Western condemnation. Doesn't he look like a... Hey, Captain, I'm Governor all she's got. We don't have any more lithium crystals, Captain. And I would walk 500... All right, sorry. So there he is right there, Lukashenko, with this nice bling. The Russian and Chinese leaders on Monday congratulated Belarus, will you do the fandango, President Alexander Lukashenko for winning a 7th term in office, with Russia's Vladimir Putin saying Sunday's election showed he had the undoubted backing of the people. Yipper! What's up, yipper, 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 yipper? People are doing cocaine at work right now. Probably are. I wouldn't be surprised. Official results showed the 70-year-old autocrat winning more than 86% of the vote, drawing condemnation in the West after having imprisoned or exiled all his major opponents during his 3-decade rule. The Belarusian leader has won every presidential election since 1994 in ballots that the opposition and rights groups say are rigged. Steal the vote. You steal the vote. Your convincing victory in the elections clearly testifies to your high political authority and to the undoubted support of the population for the state policy Belarus is pursuing. President Vladimir Putin said, according to the Kremlin, you are always a welcome and dear guest on Russian soil. As agreed, I look forward to seeing you soon in Moscow. Hugs and kisses, XXXOOO, Vladdy P. Chinese President Xi Jinping also sent a message of congratulations to Lukashenko. Chinese state media reported Beijing and Minsk have drawn closer over recent years, with Belarus under Western sanctions looking east to secure foreign investment. Oh boy, here we go. Exiled opposition leader Svetlana Tikhanovskaya called the election a farce, while the European Union described it as a sham. But not a sham wow, which is one of those cool, cloths that you can polish stuff with. Lukashenko, a staunch Putin ally, has carried out a ruthless crackdown on opponents since huge protests against him in 2020. Rights groups say the country has jailed more than 1,200 political prisoners, with around 300 released in pre-vote pardons by Lukashenko. This time, the candidates picked to run against him campaigned in his favor, while Lukashenko did not take part in debates and said he was not really following the campaign. Yeah, that's all you can kind of tell. It might be rigged, when he's just like, yeah, I don't really care. Yeah, whatever. I know I'm going to win this. So this is interesting. So Russia, getting all these sanctions on them by the West, now they're going to stick it to them. They're sticking to, I look like a sailor. I look like I'm about to break into your house and steal your jewelry from your wall safe, right? Little don't put the hood on. I can't do it with the things. Anyway, the EU plans to ban sales of video game consoles to Russia. So Russia will have to play Tetris forever. Or Russian Attack. You ever play that game? That's a great game from the 80s. So the European Union can include Sony's PlayStation and Microsoft's Xbox gaming consoles in the 16th package of sanctions against Russia, Financial Times reported, referring to EU diplomacy chief Kaja Kallas. Kaja Kallas, is that like Kaja Gugu? As she told the newspaper, Brussels is studying everything that helps Russia conduct military actions so as to include it in the sanctions list. According to her, the list may include even video game consoles because apparently they are the ones they use to control drones. Microsoft, Nintendo, and Sony stopped selling their products in Russia in early March 2022. Therefore, the EU ban will be aimed at third parties from the bloc's countries that resell goods to Russia, including used games. The sanctions list will also include chemicals allegedly necessary for the Russian military industry, and restrictions will be imposed on liquid natural gas imports. The Financial Times added, citing diplomatic sources, that the proposed 16th package would also include measures to limit imports of Russian aluminum. However, it is not yet clear whether this would be a complete ban or the introduction of duties. So no PlayStation for you, Russia. You'll have to play on you'll have to break out your old Segas if you got those old Segas. Tetris will always be go. I mean, it really is. I do love games like that. I like games that make you have to think quickly, make decisions really quick like that. You know, you got to turn the block, or you know, what are you going to do with it? You know, it's really cool. Stretches your mind. You know, kind of makes it a little more stretchy. Yeah. So meanwhile in Serbia, don't let the baby face fool you. Serbia's prime minister resigns as anti-corruption protests grow. There he is right there. Look at him. He's all smiley face, but, you know, he's getting out. Yep, he's heading on out. They're kicking him out. Serbia's populist prime minister, Milos Vucevic, resigned Tuesday in an attempt to calm political tensions and pressure roiled by weeks of massive anti-corruption protests over the deadly collapse of a concrete canopy. The canopy collapsed in November, which killed 15 people in the northern city of Novi Sad, has become a flashpoint reflecting wider discontent with the increasingly autocratic rule of Serbia's populist president, Aleksandar Vučić. He has faced accusations of curbing democratic freedoms in Serbia despite formally seeking European Union membership for the troubled Balkan nation. It is my appeal for everyone to calm down the passions and return to dialogue, Vucevic told a news conference announcing his resignation. Novi Sad Mayor Milan Juric also stepped down on Tuesday. Vucevic's resignation could lead to an early parliamentary election. The resignation must be confirmed by Serbia's parliament, which has 30 days to choose a new government or call a snap election. Pro-government media said President Vučić will attend a cabinet session on Tuesday evening, or he did, to decide whether a new prime minister designate will be appointed or an early election called. Opposition parties have said they would insist on a transitional government that would create conditions for a free and fair election. Vucic's populists have faced accusations of irregularities during past elections. Vucevic became the prime minister in April last year after the Serbian Progressive Party won most votes in an election marred by tensions. The ruling party has been in a freefall since the Novi Sad tragedy, journalist Slobodan Georgiev said on N1 television, adding that Vučić was seeking a buffer with prime minister's resignation. Protests are the biggest challenge yet to the ruling populists. Vučić in the past had managed to cushion the impact of anti-government street protests, but the current student movement has garnered widespread support from all walks of life, including actors, farmers, lawyers, and judges. The students' call for justice has resonated in a country where corruption is widespread, and few feel that the state institutions work in the interests of citizens. Branimir Jovancic, professor at the Faculty of Chemistry in Belgrade, expressed hope that Vucevic's resignation is a first step towards further political changes in Serbia, where power is concentrated in the hands of the president, although his constitutional role is largely ceremonial. If the president thinks that by replacing one essentially unimportant figure will solve the problem, he is deeply mistaken, said Jovancic. This must lead to total political changes because autocracy and dictatorship in Serbia, in the heart of Europe, must be stopped. Total political changes. Look at that. On Monday, tens of thousands of people joined striking university students in a 24-hour blockade of a key traffic intersection in the Serbian capital. Serbia's students are demanding accountability for the canopy collapse that critics have blamed on rampant government corruption. Classes at Serbia's universities and dozens of schools have been blocked for 2 months, with students camping inside their faculty buildings. In another attempt to diffuse tensions, Vucevic and Parliament Speaker Ana Brnabic on Monday evening urged dialogue with the students, who have so far rebuffed such invitations. They say Vučić shouldn't be the one holding talks with them, but that government institutions such as police and the judiciary should do their job. Vucevic said the immediate cause for his quitting was an attack on a female student in Novi Sad early Tuesday by assailants allegedly from the ruling Serbian Progressive Party. Vucevic said that whenever it seems there is hope to return to social dialogue to talk, it's like an invisible hand creates a new incident and intentions mount again. Invisible hand. But the outgoing prime minister also said the street protests undoubtedly have been organized from abroad with an aim to directly jeopardize Serbia as a state. Vucevic offered no evidence for his claims that echoed earlier similar statements by Vucic. Of course, they don't have any evidence. It's just them talking out of their ass. I can never justify or understand many of these protests, blockades of lives or of roads, and the freedom of movement of other citizens, he said. Students in Novi Sad said they were horrified by the assault they said was carried out by thugs with baseball bats. They attacked two groups of students and chased them in their car, according to the students. Prosecutors later said that 4 people had been detained. We are horrified over the state of our society where such a situation is possible, the student said in an Instagram post. We have had enough of blood. The students call a big rally in Novi Sad earlier Tuesday in response to the attack. Serbia's prosecutors have filed charges against 13 people, including a government minister and several state officials, for the November canopy collapse, but the former construction minister Goran Vesic, who had resigned shortly after the canopy crash, had been released from detention, fueling doubts over the investigation's independence. The main railway station in Novi Sad was renovated and inaugurated twice in recent years as part of a wider infrastructure deal with Chinese state companies and a fast railway link with neighboring Hungary. Several incidents have marred the street demonstrations in the past weeks, including drivers ramming into the crowds on 2 occasions, where 2 young women were injured. Students and others have been holding daily 15-minute traffic blockades throughout Serbia at 11:52 a.m., the exact same time the concrete canopy crashed down on November 1st. The blockades honor the 15 victims, including 2 children. The blockades were also held on Tuesday, yesterday. And so, we always like to keep our eyes on unions and especially striking workers trying to, make better lives for their workers. So in Bangladesh, trains canceled across the country as the rail union is going on strike there. So good for them. Strike, strike, strike. Trains were canceled across Bangladesh yesterday as railway staff went on strike for higher pensions and other benefits affecting tens of thousands of passengers and freight transport. Sadur Rahman, acting president of the Bangladesh Railway Running Staff and Workers Union, said the strike was called after a meeting with the interim government headed by Nobel Peace Laureate Muhammad Yunus failed to reach a deal late Monday. Rahman said the strike would continue indefinitely if the government does not accept their demands. The state-run railway system carries some 65 million passengers per year in the densely populated nation of 170 million people. It employs about 25,000 people and operates a network of over 36,000 kilometers or 22,000 miles. The main Kamlapur railway station in the capital, Dhaka, was mobbed by hundreds of disappointed passengers who were not aware of the strike. Many waited for hours before going home. Some started drinking, some started dancing, and before you know it, a new society was formed right there on the train thing. As the country's railway advisor visited, passengers shouted complaints. Shahadat Hossain, a station manager in Dhaka, said at least 10 trains were scheduled to leave the station on Tuesday morning. Authorities arranged buses as an alternative. And that's what they do in New York, too. So if like a train is not running between a couple, 3 stops or whatever, or on a certain path, they'll put some buses up top for you to get on. And that's always a nice fucked up time. It's like, oh, the train will get you there in like 15 minutes. Oh, the buses, you'll probably get there in about 45 minutes with the traffic. And they even have bus lanes too, but, UPS be parking the trucks in the lanes and stuff. That's why we can't have nice things. So Muhammad Nadim was stranded at the Kamlapur railway station as he traveled hundreds of kilometers overnight to reach Dhaka for his vacation to the southern coastal district of Cox's Bazar. Ooh. Yeah, that was my former porn name, too, is Cox's Bazar. because of the unique shape. It came here in at 5:30 a.m. from outside Dhaka, but after 1 hour or so, I came to know that my train will not run. Boy, you know it when your train doesn't run, that's for sure. Now I have been stranded here for hours without any hope. The station officials told me my ticket money will be reimbursed, but I don't know when, he told the AP at the scene. He refused to travel to his destination by a bus as arranged by the authorities as an alternative. It's too far. I've come here to travel by train. I don't want to travel this far by an air-conditioned bus even. Yeah, good luck with that. You ain't going to get no air-conditioned bus. Now they're offering me this bus that has no air conditioning. See, sucker. He said, fuck it, I'm taking the train. Dhaka-based Jamuna TV station reported that the railway workers protested in Chattagram, which is the Dollar Tree version of Instagram. The country's second largest city, the southeastern city has the country's largest seaport, and the massive garment industry relies on trains to bring goods to it for export. The industry earns about $38 billion a year from exports, mainly to the U.S. and the European Union. In the northwestern region of Rajshahi, angry passengers smashed furniture of a station and attacked its staff, according to Jamuna TV. The Yunus-led interim government has been running the country since August, when former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina fled to India amid a student-led uprising and ended her 15-year rule. The interim administration is struggling to restore order amid reports by the global lending agencies such as the World Bank or the Asian Development Bank of slower economic growth. Bangladesh, don't mess with them. Yeah, so you love to see that too. You love to see workers, not just here in America, but around the world, stepping up for their rights, you know. And I think once the whole world starts doing that, it's probably going to take a long time for it to happen. But I don't think it's impossible. I think a lot of workers could unite around the world and draw power and support from one another. And maybe that'll be the thing that tips the scales for humanity, and we might be able to do something. Or not, and we just end up like Judge Dredd, where everything's run by corporations, and you have the judge, jury, and executioner just riding around. So it's like, you're guilty, pop, pop, you're guilty, pop, pop. So this is in, I think this is in Sudan, I believe. The scores killed in attacks near El Fasher. More than 100 people were killed in attacks on villages near El Fasher, the capital of Sudan's North Darfur state. Residents and an armed group said, attributing the violence to the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces, that is RSF. The RSF has been attacking villages in the Kadada area east of North Darfur's capital for around a week, part of what appears to be an effort to tighten its grip on the historic capital of the Darfur region, residents said. Al-Sadiq Ali Al-Nur, a spokesperson for a faction of the Sudan Liberation Movement, the SLM, led by Minnie Minawi, here's the story about Minnie Minawi. She was a low-down hoochie coochie. Oh, sorry, that's Minnie the Moocher. Minnie Minawi accused the RSF of committing genocide in Bruche Village, alleging that more than 100 unarmed civilians, including women, children, and the elderly, were killed. The RSF's actions led to a mass displacement of the village's residents, he said in a statement. Video circulated on social media platforms, which Sudan Tribune could not independently verify, that's the outlet we're getting this story from, appeared to show the aftermath of the attack in Bruche, which included what appeared to be dead bodies. CBC voter, what's up? Good to see you. What's up, Chuck? I thought I said hi to you a while ago. I meant to. The birds including what appears to be dead bodies. In Kadada, a local militia affiliated with the Berti ethnic group known as Shakara, has been resisting RSF attempts to take control of the area located east of El Fasher. In rural areas west of El Fasher, residents told Sudan Tribune that RSF forces carried out attacks in Abu Charbon, Golo, and Chakra on January 25th and 26th, involving killings, looting, and the detention of dozens of young people. Eyewitnesses reported that the RSF was amassing thousands of fighters equipped with heavy weaponry in areas west of Al-Fashir, suggesting preparations for a renewed assault on the North Darfur capital. And I can't say Darfur. I say Darfur, and then when I try to say it once I'm, in the game, then I choke. I choke real bad. Speaking of choke, hang on a second. Oh, January, you're so crazy. What was it last week? It was 6 degrees, and now today I think it's going to be like in the low 40s. Love the weather, but that temperature change, it does a number on people, and people being me. How many more stories we got? Okay, we got several. All right, so this happened in the Democratic Republic of Congo. We stay in Africa. Protesters attacked French, U.S., and Rwandan embassies in DRC. Protesters demanding action over the M23 rebel group's offensive in Eastern Democratic Republic of the Congo have attacked several embassies in the capital, Kinshasa. Crowds of demonstrators attacked the embassies of France, Belgium, Rwanda, Uganda, Kenya, and the U.S. yesterday, and smoke could be seen rising from the French embassy after a fire erupted. Protesters denounced international inaction over the conflict, targeting the embassies of countries they accuse of complicity in Rwanda's alleged support for the rebel group, which Kigali denies. France's foreign minister said in a post on the tweeters that the attack on the embassy was unacceptable. Jean-Noel Barrot confirmed that the embassy building briefly caught fire, but said the blaze was brought under control. Police used tear gas to disperse the protesters, some of whom burned tires and clashed with the police. Kenya is deeply concerned by the attacks on our embassy offices and personnel in Kinshasa, the DRC, by a riotous mob protesting the violent conflict in eastern DRC. Cabinet Secretary for Foreign and Diaspora Affairs Musalia Mudavadi said in a statement, "The violent attacks, looting, and destruction of property are a grave violation of international law." So much international law being violated all over the world. Speaking on national television, DRC's Communication Minister Patrick Muyaya urged protesters to demonstrate peacefully and refrain from violence against accredited consular infrastructure. He later said the situation was under control. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres on Tuesday spoke separately with the presidents of the DRC and Rwanda about the escalating conflict, according to spokesperson Stephanie Dujarric. When asked if any progress was made toward ending the conflict, Dujarric told reporters the crisis in eastern Congo has been going on for decades. It's not going to be solved in 24 hours. What is clear is that it will not be solved through military operations by different governments, by different militias. The March 23rd movement, that's M23, on Monday claimed to have taken control of Goma, the largest city in North Kivu province in eastern DRC. Since last week, at least 17 United Nations peacekeepers have been killed in the fighting, including 3 South African peacekeepers killed on Monday when the rebels launched an attack at the Goma airport. M23 forces were fighting on Tuesday to take the airport in their bid to complete their control over Goma. The UN's Dujarric said the situation remains tense and fluid in Goma. M23 forces, we're told, are inside the city, and UN peacekeeping personnel and troops have largely been forced to shelter in their bases, he said. M23 is one of many armed groups operating in the eastern DRC and seeking to control critical mineral mines. Of course, it's always about minerals. The UN, the DRC, and several other countries accuse Rwanda of supporting the M23 rebels. Rwanda has consistently denied the allegation. The group is composed of Tutsi fighters and claims it is battling for the rights of the DRC's minority Tutsi population. Tutsi, that's just fun to say. It emerged in 2012 after a group from the armed forces of the DRC broke away. Whoa, hello. complaining of ill treatment. Al Jazeera's Malcolm Webb, reporting from Nairobi, said that many people in the DRC believe that Rwanda and Uganda, whose embassies were attacked, have fueled the conflict in the country's east. The embassies of the Western countries, the U.S., France, Belgium, and the Netherlands, are blamed at the very least as complicit for their military support and aid for Rwanda. Webb said the sounds of gunfire and mortar fire in Goma had decreased, and Congolese and allied soldiers have reportedly made more efforts to push back the rebels. The hospitals are inundated with hundreds of casualties, according to the UN and hospital sources, he noted. Many more people have been injured in the fighting, and people there have told us they cannot seek medical care because it's not safe in the streets due to the fighting. The UN Security Council was expected to meet late on Tuesday to discuss the conflict and the humanitarian crisis involved. Yeah. Staying in the DRC, the ICRC in the DRC warns that the lab holding Ebola in DRC's Goma is at risk amid the fighting. So there you go. You got all this fighting, and now, hey, let's throw Ebola into the mix. You want some Ebola? Who wants a bowl of Ebola? The Red Cross voiced alarm yesterday over the risk of that fighting in the besieged DRC city of Goma could cause samples of Ebola and other pathogens held in a laboratory to escape. The International Committee of the Red Cross is very concerned about the situation in the laboratory of the National Biomedical Research Institute, which is facing a risk of power cuts, ICRC Regional Director for Africa, Patrick Youssef, said. Speaking to reporters in Geneva, he stressed the importance of preserving the samples that may be affected by the clashes, warning of unimaginable consequences if the samples, including the Ebola virus that it contains, were to spread. Youssef highlighted that the laboratory was very close to the ICRC delegation in Goma, but he had no information about the safety of other labs in the city. The main city in eastern DRC has become a battleground since fighters from the Tutsi-led M23 armed group and Rwandan forces entered central Goma on Sunday after a weeks-long advance. And then this tells you more of what we were just saying before. Let's see. Yeah, and it just tells more about the conflict there. Francois Morelian, head of the ICRC's DRC delegation, said the organization was receiving a large number of calls from people who are wounded, helpless, and left to fend for themselves. Yeah. So, them with the Ebola, you know, I had this story about the CIA said, you know, the COVID was probably more likely a lab leak. You know, you gotta think that this is probably going to be leaking too. So, and South Korea seems to be having some problems with their planes. You know, we had the crash. We'll tell you more about that. But then just recently, South Korea plane caught on fire with 176 on board. Spoiler alert, everybody's fine. But we'll still tell you about this. The tail of a passenger plane with 176 people on board caught fire before takeoff at an airport in South Korea Tuesday night. All passengers and crew were safely evacuated. The Air Busan plane at Gimhae International Airport in the southeastern city of Busan was bound for Hong Kong, Yonhap News Agency reported. 169 passengers and 7 crew members were evacuated using an inflatable slide, adding that 3 people were injured, but their condition wasn't serious. So they get the nice little whee, and then they slide down the slide. I mean, you can see it if you want, I guess. So this is the thing. This is them. I don't really know if there's any volume to this, but yeah, so that's the plane. Caught on fire. And they're not really sure how it caught on fire. So, meanwhile, both engines of the Jeju Air contain duck DNA, says report. So they're thinking birds knocked out these motors, or knocked out these plane engines. Report provides no initial conclusions about what may have caused plane to land without its landing gear deployed. That's what they're talking about. So this is still just a crazy story here. The Jeju airplanes, both engines contain duck remains, according to a preliminary report on Monday, with authorities still trying to determine what caused the deadliest air disaster on South Korean soil. Released by South Korean authorities a month after the crash, the 6-page report said both engines of the Boeing 737-800 jet contained DNA from Baikal teals, a type of migratory duck that flies to South Korea for winter in huge flocks. But the report provided no initial conclusions about what may have caused the plane to land without its landing gear deployed and why flight data recorders stopped recording in the final 4 minutes of the flight. The Jeju Air flight from Bangkok on December 29th overshot Muan Airport's runway as it made an emergency belly landing and crashed into an embankment containing navigation equipment called localizers, killing all but 2 of the 181 people and crew members on board. After the crash into the embankment, fire and a partial explosion occurred. Both engines were buried in the embankment soil mound, and the 4 fuselage scattered up to 30 to 200 meters from the embankment, the report said, providing some new pictures of the accident site. The localizer aids navigation of an aircraft making an approach to the runway, and the structure built of reinforced concrete and earth at Muan Airport, supporting the system's antenna, likely contributed to the high death toll, experts have said. The investigation will tear down the engines, examine components in depth, analyze in-flight and air traffic control data, and investigate the embankment, localizers, and evidence of bird strike, the report said about its next steps. The all-out investigation activities aim to determine the accurate cause of the accident. The report highlighted much of the initial findings by the South Korean investigators that were shared with victims' families on Saturday, including the pilot's awareness of a flock of birds on the plane's final approach. The exact time the bird strike was reported by the pilots remains unconfirmed, the accident report said, but the aircraft made an emergency declaration, a Mayday ×3, for a bird strike during a go-around. The report does not say what may have led to the cockpit voice recorder and flight data recorder to stop recording simultaneously just before the pilots declared the emergency. The aircraft was at an altitude of 498 feet, flying at 161 knots, or about 185 miles per hour, about 1.1 nautical miles from the runway. At the moment the flight recorder stopped recording, it said. The International Civil Aviation Organization, that's the ICAO, a UN agency, requires accident investigators to produce a preliminary report within 30 days of the accident and encourages a final report to be made public within 12 months. South Korea's Aviation and Railway Accident Investigation Board has shared its report with ICAO, Thailand, and the U.S. and France, which are the home states for the plane and engine manufacturers, and officials said on Monday. And more Trumpy news, but more in the vein of what's going to be happening in Taiwan. And for chip makers, especially for those folks who like to build their own computers, Pittsburgh Dude 87, what is going on? How are you today? I hope you're doing well. Was the Korean plane a Boeing? Yes, it was. It was definitely a Boeing. It was a Boeing. What was it? A 737-800? Those are the ones with the doors falling off and shit, I believe. So, welcome to you, Pittsburgh Dude. Hope you're doing well today. ICAOC. I knew somebody was going to do that. Somebody dyslexic said, hey, look, it's ICAOC. So Trump is threatening Taiwan's chip makers with, guess what, sweeping tariffs. He is the tariff sheriff, isn't he? There he is. That's your dad's golfing buddy. U.S. President Donald Trump has said he plans to impose tariffs as high as 100% on imported chips and semiconductors from foreign manufacturers such as Taiwan. He also pledged to place sweeping tariffs on pharmaceuticals and steel in order to compel manufacturers to relocate production to the U.S. I think they'd rather just see the United States just crumble on itself instead, but, Addressing Republican Party members on Monday, Trump said that his administration will implement the tariffs in the very near future to return production of these essential goods to the U.S. of A. The U.S. president argued that production of computer chips and semiconductors left us and went to Taiwan, which is about 98% of the chip business, by the way. And we want them to come back, and we don't want to give them billions of dollars like this ridiculous program that Biden has, whatever that is. He was referring to former President Joe Biden's program of providing subsidies to chip makers such as Intel to produce in the U.S. Biden's Chips and Science Act, signed into law in 2022, earmarked $53 billion in subsidies for microchip companies in an effort to boost U.S. competitiveness and catch up with China. The remarks are the latest in a series of trade-related threats issued by Trump in recent days. He's also vowed to impose 25% tariffs on imports from Canada and Mexico unless both countries address U.S. demands regarding border security and drug trafficking issues. Responding to Trump's tariff threats on Tuesday, Taiwan's economy ministry said that the semiconductor trade between Taiwan and the U.S. is mutually beneficial, describing it as a win-win model. Home to the world's largest contract chip maker, Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company, TSMC, the island is a vital link in the global technology supply chain. Taiwan and the U.S. semiconductor and other technology industries are highly complementary to each other, especially the U.S.-designed Taiwan Foundry model, which creates a win-win business model for Taiwan and U.S. industries, the Taiwanese economy minister said, as cited by Reuters. TSMC produces semiconductors for major U.S. customers, including NVIDIA and Apple. In 2024, North American buyers accounted for 70% of TSMC's total revenue. According to estimates by Reuters, Beijing considers self-governed Taiwan part of its territory under its One China principle and opposes foreign interference. While the U.S. officially adheres to the One China policy, it has continued to supply arms to the island and engage in military cooperation with the government in Taipei. Meanwhile, this China's DeepSeek AI is causing some problems, particularly for the world's richest, as they lose $100 billion in one day. They must have went to the casino. No? The world's 500 richest people lost a total of $108 billion in wealth on Monday amid a tech-led sell-off linked to the emergence of Chinese AI app DeepSeek, according to Bloomberg. The sell-off erased gains from the tech portfolios of billionaires such as NVIDIA co-founder Jensen Huang and Oracle's Larry Ellison, whose fortunes are tied to AI. DeepSeek's AI assistant, released last week, has soared in popularity within days and overtook U.S.-based OpenAI's ChatGPT as the most popular program on the Apple App Store over the weekend, probably because it's open source, too. The company has claimed that it created its latest AI model for a fraction of the cost of similar products by the mostly American firms dominating the global market. The startup's popularity sent shockwaves through tech stocks on Monday, causing many of them to plunge. The NASDAQ Composite Index fell 3.1%, and the S&P 500 dropped by 1.5%. NVIDIA dropped by 17%, or roughly $600 billion, and ceded its title as the world's most valuable company to Apple, causing Huang's fortune to shrink by $20.1 billion, a 20% drop, according to the Bloomberg Billionaires Index. Oracle's stock plunged around 14%, which saw Ellison lose $22.6 billion, or 12% of his fortune. Dell's Michael Dell saw his fortune shrink by $13 billion, and Binance co-founder Changpeng Zhao lost $12.1 billion. Some big names in the tech industry, however, escaped the sell-off unscathed. Meta founder Mark Zuckerberg's net worth was up $4.3 billion at the end of trading on Monday. Amazon founder Jeff Bezos' wealth jumped by around $600 million. Analysts believe that DeepSeek's breakthrough jeopardizes the U.S. narrative that AI innovation needs massive capital inflows. Some note, however, that the reason DeepSeek did not rely on big investment is that Chinese firms have limited access to advanced chips due to U.S. export controls. The company said last month that it used NVIDIA's H800 chips, which are not subject to restrictions, for training its latest AI model, and spent less than $6 million in the process, while rival U.S. firms spend billions on similar solutions. Why? Because the U.S. is stupid. Commenting on the app's success, U.S. President Donald Trump said it should be seen as a wake-up call for U.S. tech titans, prompting them to come up with more cost-effective AI models. The release of DeepSeek AI from a Chinese company should be a wake-up call for other industries that we need to be laser-focused on competing to win. So instead of spending billions and billions, you'll spend less and hopefully achieve the same results, Trump told reporters on Monday while he was eating a sandwich or some bullshit. I don't know. I just made that up. But DeepSeek is having problems of its own as the Chinese AI startup reports cyber attacks amid rapid rise. Because that's what happens. You start rising that quickly, somebody wants a piece of the action. Chinese artificial intelligence company DeepSeek announced on Monday that it had suffered a large-scale cyber attack, temporarily disrupting its services for new users. While registered users were able to log in without issues, the company revealed that the attack specifically targeted its user registration system. Wow, that's amazing. That's funny because they don't want people to register for it because it's, the thing. I think it's free, too. DeepSeek described the incident as large-scale malicious attacks, but did not elaborate on the source or motive behind the breach. The timing of the attack coincides with a surge in the company's global popularity, fueled by the recent success of its AI chatbot. So a little more on this. So last month, DeepSeek captured industry attention with the launch of its revolutionary AI model. The startup claims the model rivals those of major U.S. companies such as OpenAI, while being significantly more cost-effective due to its efficient use of NVIDIA chips during training. Despite U.S. trade restrictions limiting China's access to cutting-edge chips, DeepSeek used open-source technology and less advanced hardware to develop its system, challenging the assumption that AI innovation requires top-tier infrastructure. By Monday, DeepSeek's AI assistant had become the top free app on Apple's iPhone store, further solidifying its global rise. This achievement has sent ripples through the tech industry, sparking debates about competition between U.S. and Chinese tech companies in the rapidly growing AI sector. Some U.S. industry experts have raised concerns about DeepSeek's ability, not DeepSync, I don't know why I keep saying that, to achieve comparable results at a fraction of the cost, with investor Mark Andreessen describing the company's achievements as one of the most amazing and impressive breakthroughs. DeepSeek's rise has not only drawn attention to its technological advances, but also triggered financial shockwaves. And as we said, the shares of NVIDIA, all these people went down. Founded in Hangzhou, China in 2023, DeepSeek has rapidly established itself as a major player in the AI industry. Its innovative model and growing global influence highlight intensifying competition between China and the U.S. in the race for AI dominance, forcing industry leaders to rethink their strategies. And finally, in our news block, just a little bit of good news for you. If you partake in the Lunar New Year, welcome. It is the new Lunar New Year. Prayer and dance, hundreds of millions in Asia celebrate the Year of the Snake. That's what this year is. From incense offerings and vibrant lion dances in Beijing to prayer rituals at temples in Bangkok and Taipei, hundreds of millions of people across Asia celebrated the Lunar New Year on Wednesday, ushering in the Year of the Snake. That's what my ex-wife calls our marriage. The year of the snake. In China, people enjoy 8 consecutive public holidays for the 2025 Spring Festival, an opportunity to share meals, attend traditional performances, and set off fireworks. Train stations and airports across the country have been jam-packed for weeks as millions return home to spend the holidays with their loved ones in an annual migration that is expected to be a record. Temples and parks in the Chinese capital on Wednesday were full of people braving freezing temperatures to bid farewell to the Year of the Dragon with dancing and prayers. High streets, shopping malls, offices, and homes were bedecked in festive red banners believed to ward off evil throughout many parts of East and Southeast Asia, including South Korea, Singapore, and Thailand. And in Thailand, it's you neither win nor lose. The normally bustling streets of major cities in Vietnam were almost empty as families for their ancestors and gathered for traditional dishes and drinks. But after the price of bananas, a traditional offering to forebears, rocketed following the massive destruction of farmland by Typhoon Yagi last year. Some families have been forced to look for alternatives. I did not want to spend $25 for a bunch of green bananas that normally cost less than half. Housewife Lei Thi Mong Mai told AFP, ancestors don't mind if they are not offered green bananas. Okay. In Taiwan, on Wednesday morning, people of all ages poured into temples to make offerings of their own, including fruits, sweets, crackers, and nuts. Our tradition is to visit the temple and pray for better fortune for this year, said Chen Qingwan, as she visited Longshan Temple in Taipei with her mother. There's no need to ask for anything specific. Just wish for a smooth, peaceful, safe, and healthy year and pray that everything goes well. Some temple goers ushered in the new year by racing to be the first to light incense in the pursuit of good fortune. And this is in Manila, in their Chinatown. The Chinatown in New York is great, too. They really have good Lunar New Year festivities there, too. I didn't want to look back with regret when I'm old, so I decided to go for it. Cao Meng Shun said after Fusing Temple in Central West, from Fusing Temple in Central West Yunlin County in Thailand, throngs of locals and tourists made their way to Wat Mangkon, Kamalawat, Bangkok's most revered Chinese temple. I thought it was Angkor Wat. Was their most revered. Maybe not. Built in 1871 by immigrants from southern China, the temple remains a key worshiping site for the Thai Chinese community. I have many Thai Chinese friends who say this temple is very sacred, says Sasakorn Udomrat, who has visited the last 8 years and prayed for good health. Crowds also filled the streets in the Philippine and Indonesian capitals for vibrant lion dance parades. So, and like I said, that's going on too, like in a lot of major cities with large Asian contingents in their population. I mean, we used to, hey, what's up, Denver? Over there on the Rockfin. Typhoon Pat Morita. I always thought you said Pat Morita. Is that what you're saying? Yeah, so, yeah, happy Lunar New Year if you celebrate. If not, if you don't celebrate, well, happy Lunar New Year to you anyway. So the new ICJ president, who's a big fan of Israel, is accused of plagiarism. Dun, dun, dun. Oh, Israel, your friends are so fucked up.
The sharing of biased and
False news has become all too common on social media.
More alarming, some media outlets publish things they are true without checking facts first.
Unfortunately, some members of the media use their platforms to push their own personal bias and agenda to control exactly what people think. And this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
We got a fat propaganda watch for you today. ICJ president accused of plagiarism in dissenting opinion on Israeli occupation. Oh boy. Julia Sebutinde, the current president of the ICJ, that's the International Court of Justice, has been accused of plagiarizing parts of her dissenting views in the court's advisory opinion on the Israeli occupation of Palestine. In July last year, the 15-judge panel found that Israel's decades-long occupation of the Palestinian territories was unlawful and that its near-complete separation of people in the occupied West Bank breached international laws concerning racial segregation and apartheid. While the opinion was agreed upon by most of the judges, Sebutinde rejected the findings of the court, stating that the case should be settled through negotiations between the parties. Zachary Foster, a researcher on Palestine, pointed out the alleged plagiarism in a thread on the tweeters on Sunday. In one section of the dissenting opinion, Sebutinde writes, "Territorially, the name Palestine applied vaguely to a region that for the 400 years before World War I was part of the Ottoman Empire. In 135 CE, after stamping out the second Jewish insurrection of the province of Judea, or Judah, the Romans renamed that province Syria Palestina, or Palestinian Syria. The Romans did this as a punishment despite the Yudim, the Jewish population, and to obliterate the link between them and their province, known in Hebrew as Yehuda. The name Palestina was used in relation to the people known as the Philistines and found along the Mediterranean coast. The three sentences appeared to be lifted almost word for word from an article published in December 2021 by Douglas J. Feith in the Hudson Institute. Feith, a senior fellow at the Hudson Institute, a conservative think tank, was under U.S. Secretary of Defense for Policy in the President George W. Bush administration from July 2001 until August 2005, devising American strategy for the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. During that time, Feith was in charge of a key Pentagon office that produced inappropriately written intelligence assessments before the March 2003 invasion, alleging connections between al-Qaeda and Iraq that the U.S. intelligence consensus disputed. In 1996, Feith co-wrote a policy paper for then Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu that suggested Israel should consider removing Saddam Hussein from power in Iraq and militarily engage Syria using proxy forces. Feith's piece for the Hudson Institute is not cited in the bibliography of Sebutinde's dissenting opinion. Middle East Eye reached out to Sebutinde and Feith for comment. Sebutinde declined to comment, while Feith did not respond. Foster points out in his thread that Sebutinde also lifted several sentences from the Jewish Virtual Library, changing a few words. What is this chick, Joe Biden? Sebutinde wrote, when the distinguished Arab-American historian Professor Philip Hitti testified against the partition of mandatory Palestine before the Anglo-American Committee in 1946, he remarked, "There is no such thing as Palestine in history. Absolutely not." A very similar line in the Jewish Virtual Library's Myths and Facts page reads, when the distinguished Arab-American historian, Princeton University, Professor Philip Hitti, testified against partition before the Anglo-American Committee in 1946, he said there is no such thing as Palestine in history. Absolutely not. Yep, she lifted it. Foster highlighted four sentences from the dissenting opinion borrowed from the Jewish Virtual Library. The website is not mentioned in the Ugandan judge's citations. The Jewish Virtual Library is part of the American Israel Cooperative Enterprise, which says it provides facts about the Arab-Israeli conflict and fights the delegitimization of Israel. Sebutinde became the president of the ICJ earlier this month after former head Nawaf Salam was appointed Lebanon's next prime minister. In January last year, the ICJ delivered an interim ruling calling on Israel to refrain from impeding the delivery of aid into Gaza and improve the humanitarian situation. It also ordered Israel to take all measure within its power to prevent acts of genocide in the besieged enclave and to punish incitement to genocide, among other orders. Sebutinde, who has been described in the Israeli media as pro-Israel, was the only judge on the 17-member panel who voted against all 6 measures adopted by the court. Israeli Judge Aaron Barak also voted against several of the measures. The dissenting opinion prompted Uganda to distance itself from Sebutinde. The position taken by Judge Sebutinde is her own individual and independent opinion and does not in any way reflect the position of the government of the Republic of Uganda. a government spokesperson said in a statement at the time. They are distancing themselves from Sister Girl. They added that Kampala supported the position of the non-aligned movement on the war, which was adopted during a summit in the Ugandan capital. The non-aligned movement had condemned Israel's war on Gaza and its killing of civilians. And now she's the head of the ICJ. That'll be interesting. So not a lot of people are a fan of what Trumpy's doing out there. Americans sour on some of Trump's early moves, as Americans have a dim view of some of President Donald Trump's early barrage of executive orders, including his attempt to do away with so-called birthright citizenship and his decision to rename the Gulf of Mexico to Gulf of America. And a little side note on that. So apparently Google Maps is changing the name of Gulf of Mexico on their maps, on their Google Maps, to Gulf of America. I think in Mexico it's still going to be called Gulf of Mexico, and in the Caribbean too. It's just some ridiculous, dumb shit. Well, whatever. Anyway, so since taking office on January 20th, the Republican president has moved quickly to crack down on immigration and scale back the size of government. Efforts that respondents to the 3-day poll that closed on Sunday look on more favorably. Overall, the poll showed 45% of Americans approve of Trump's performance as president, down slightly from 47% in a January 20th, 21st poll. The share who disapprove was slightly larger at 46%, an increase from 39% in the prior poll. The poll has a margin of error of about 4 percentage points. While it does seem Trump is getting a honeymoon to some extent, his numbers are still not impressive by historical standards, said Kyle Kondik. Kondik. And you're going to say Kondik, and then you're going to say analyst? Come on, stop it. I'm 14 years old. An analyst with the University of Virginia Center for Politics. During Trump's first term, his approval rating hit as high as 49%. Ooh. During his first weeks in office, but he closed out his term at 34% approval following the January 6th assault on the U.S. Capitol. It may be too early to evaluate whether Trump is squandering his political capital by focusing on issues where he is not aligned with the public, Kondik said, but the poll shows that many of his early actions have been greeted warmly only by his hardcore base of supporters, his cult, of course. Voters more generally remain deeply concerned about the high price of food, housing, and other necessities, a poll found. You would think most Americans opposed ending the nation's long-standing practice of granting citizenship to children born in the U.S., even if neither parent has legal immigration status, the poll found. Some 59% of respondents, including 89% of Democrats and 36% of Republicans, said they opposed ending birthright citizenship. A federal judge last week temporarily blocked the Trump administration from making changes to birthright citizenship, but the White House has vowed to fight on because we're dumb, greedy motherfuckers that are just doing shit for other people. 70% of respondents oppose renaming the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America, an action Trump ordered on his first day in office. Only 25% of respondents supported the idea, with the rest unsure. How can you be unsure? How can you, I mean, that sounds like an issue you would care about. You're just like, look, I don't care, whatever, fine, call it whatever. Some 59% of respondents, including 30% of Republicans, oppose Trump's moves to end federal efforts to promote the hiring of women and members of racial minority groups. When asked specifically about Trump's order to close all federal diversity, equity, and inclusion offices, the DEI offices, respondents were more evenly divided, with 51% opposed and 44% in favor, largely along partisan lines. Support for expanding fossil fuel drilling, another early policy change in the new administration. It was highly concentrated in Trump's party, with 76% of Republicans backing the easing of drilling restrictions and 81% of Democrats opposing it. Some 59% of respondents said they opposed the U.S. pulling out of the Paris Climate Accords. Public views also split along partisan lines for billionaire businessman Elon Musk, one of Trump's most prominent allies. While 75% of Republicans in the survey said they had a favorable view of Musk, 90% of Democrats said they had an unfavorable view. One possible source of concern for Trump's political team could be the still overwhelming sense that rising prices remain untamed. Some 50% of poll respondents said the country was on the wrong track when it came to the cost of living, compared to 25% who said it was moving in the right direction. Those people were heavily medicated. The rest said they weren't sure, didn't answer the question, didn't really give a fuck. There were positive indicators for Trump as well. Some 48% Americans approve of Trump's approach on immigration, compared to 41% who disapprove. And the polls showed Trump having significant levels of support on the hiring freeze he ordered at most federal offices, with 49% of respondents backing a freeze, including 80% of Republicans and 43% of Democrats. Kondik said that Trump ultimately may be judged by the public on big picture issues such as the economy and immigration, and that opposition to smaller scale policy measures may not be damaging. Trump was elected in large part because voters tended to side with him on the economy and immigration. To the extent he is viewed as doing positive things on that, it's probably good for him, Kondik said. But he added, if voters in the coming months perceive Trump's immigration crackdown or his government downsizing efforts to be overly harsh, that could change. Trump won't be on the ballot again, but the backlash could be felt by congressional Republicans running for re-election next year, he said. The Reuters Ipsos poll, which was conducted online and nationwide over January 24th through the 26th, surveyed 1,034 adults and one chimpanzee who had the day off from work. Yeah. So Trump's, he's all right in the popularity vote, but not really where he should be for somebody in the honeymoon stage. Meanwhile, the French president's popularity has hit a new low. Oh, sacre bleu. No, do not tell me I am not loved. Everybody loves me. Look at my face. I have no neck. French President Emmanuel Macron's popularity dropped to a new low since his first election in 2017 in a poll published on Sunday. Just 21% of respondents to the IFOP poll published in the Journal Dimanche newspaper expressed satisfaction with the president. 21% approval. His popularity has sunk even lower than it did during the 2019 standoff with the Yellow Vests. Remember them? Movement that saw weekly anti-Macron protests that lasted more than a year. His popularity in Sunday's poll was marginally lower than his 22% score in November. Holy shit. Those expressing dissatisfaction at 35% and great dissatisfaction at 44% with Macron made up 79% of respondents to the poll. Most alarmingly, since a December poll, is that Macron's popularity dropped by 10% amongst old people and pensioners, usually a bastion of his support. Macron's popularity has plummeted again since he dissolved parliament in the summer, just before Paris hosted the Olympic Games, leading to inconclusive parliamentary elections that have left France in a political crisis ever since. The poll was conducted among 2,001 people aged over 18 online between January 15th and January 23rd. 2001 people. Yes. What's next? What do we got here? So, they put that freeze on spending. I thought they had not frozen money for Ukraine because Ukraine is one of their boys, right? But unfortunately, they got some of their aid cut in this freeze. So Ukrainian media outlets start asking for donations after U.S. funding is paused or probably canceled. Major Ukrainian media outlets are asking, this is from Dave DeCamp over at antiwar.com. Major Ukrainian media outlets are asking for donations following the Trump administration's 90-day foreign aid pause, since many of them are funded by the U.S. government. Ukrainian-Canadian professor and researcher Ivan Kachanovsky noted on the tweeters that the Ukrainian online newspaper Strana.ua reported that two outlets, Ramatsk and Behus.info, acknowledged in their fundraising pitches that they lost U.S. funding. Probably because nobody could spell their fucking names or say their fucking names. BIHUS.info said in a Facebook post that a large portion of its work had been funded by the U.S. agency U.S. aid for international development. Therefore, now the role of donations from viewers is changing from an alternative source to one of the key ones. What will happen in 90 days, we do not know, but we know one thing. Now is the time to find out whether our work is really needed by Ukrainian society, the Post said. Romadsky said that some of the projects that we implement thanks to grants are temporarily stopped. That is why we especially need the support of each and every one of you. Other major Ukrainian outlets, including Ukrainsky Pravda and Detector Media, also began asking for donations following the pause in U.S. foreign aid, but did not explicitly name that as the reason they're fundraising. Kachanovsky, author of the book The Maidan Massacre in Ukraine, said many of the U.S.-funded media outlets whitewashed the Ukrainian far right and smeared opponents as pro-Russia. Major Ukrainian media outlets financed by the U.S. and other Western governments, such as Ukrainska Pravda and Detector Media, propagated the war to the last Ukrainian, glorified and whitewashed neo-Nazi-led Azov, the OUN, and the UPA, and smeared anyone who opposed this as Russian agents paid by the Kremlin, Kachanovsky wrote on the tweeters. The New York Times reported that several humanitarian organizations in Ukraine have had to shut down due to the Trump administration's foreign aid pause. U.S. officials at the U.S. Embassy in Ukraine are asking for exemptions for humanitarian operations in the country, but so far, the only known exemptions are for military aid to Israel and Egypt under the State Department's Foreign Military Financing Program. Sorry, Ukraine, you're just not Zionist enough. The vast majority of U.S. military aid to Ukraine is provided by the Pentagon, and that does not appear to be affected by the State Department's pause. I am focused on military aid. It has not been stopped. Thank God, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said on Saturday. Before leaving office, President Biden approved a huge amount of military aid for Ukraine, and there's no sign those shipments have been frozen either. So, Pakistan, you know that country over there in country land where all the countries are. Pakistan outlaws disinformation with a 3-year jail term. Uh-oh. SpaghettiOs. So, Pakistan criminalized online disinformation yesterday, passing legislation dictating punishments up to 3 years in jail and prompting journalist protests accusing the government of quashing dissent. The law targets anyone who, quote, intentionally disseminates, unquote, information online that they have, quote, reason to believe to be false or fake and likely to cause or create a sense of fear, panic, or disorder or unrest, unquote. It was rushed through the National Assembly with little warning last week before being approved by the Senate on Tuesday as reporters walked out of the gallery in protest. Pakistan media workers have reported rising state censorship in recent years, and the public has shifted to consuming much of its news from social media. The mainstream media is already compromised. That's the reason why many journalists turn to YouTube. YouTube journalist Asad Ali Tour told AFP in the capital, Islamabad, where more than 100 journalists rallied against the bill. The state wants the same control of social media as it is controlling the mainstream media, Tour said. Around 50 journalists also protested the bill outside the press club of the southern city of Karachi on Tuesday. And let's say the government is struggling with legitimacy after elections last February, plagued by rigging allegations and with popular former Prime Minister Imran Khan jailed on corruption charges he insists are politically motivated. Khan supporters and senior lieutenants in his Pakistani Tehreek-e-Insaf, the PTI, sorry about that, the party have faced a severe crackdown with thousands rounded up and Khan's name censored from television. Much of PTI's campaigning has moved online where the party's young tech-savvy base has continually called for protests. PTI Senator Saeed Shibli Faraz called the new law highly undemocratic and said it would fuel the political victimization of their supporters. Facebook, TikTok, and WhatsApp are among the most popular social media platforms in Pakistan, where low digital literacy fuels the spread of false information, conspiracy theories, and deepfakes. Some YouTube journalists blur the line between reporting and heavily partisan commentary tailored to their millions of viewers. Many lack proper fact-checking skills and contribute to spreading false information, sometimes garnering thousands of views. I'm sure that in the future, the anarchy caused in society through social media will be controlled, Government Minister Tanveer Hussain said as well as the bill was approved. It will now be passed to the president to be rubber stamped. The new law says social media platforms must register with a newly established regulatory body. With noncompliance potentially leading to temporary or permanent bans. It also grants Pakistan's intelligence agencies the authority to investigate disinformation and allows any citizen to file a case. Of course, if you see something, say something. Senior journalist Asif Bashir Chaudhry, excuse me, a member of the Pakistan Federal Union of Journalists, told AFP the government had assured reporters they would be consulted, but they were betrayed and backstabbed. Really? We genuinely wanted a law against misinformation, but if it's not being done through open discussion, but rather through fear and coercion, we will challenge it on every available platform, Chaudhry said. Even under dictatorships, legislation was not forcefully rammed through Parliament the way this government is doing now. Social media site The Tweeters was shut down in the wake of February's election as posts alleging vote tampering spread on the platform. Digital rights activist Digat Dodd told AFP there had been one restrictive law after another introduced under the guise of public interest or national security. Sounds very American. The real intent is consolidating power and controlling the narrative, she said. Pakistan is ranked 152nd out of 180 countries in a press freedom index compiled by Reporters Without Borders. At least 239 cases against journalists accused of spreading fake news has been recorded in South and Southeast Asia since 2018, according to the Anti-Fake News Lawfare online database. In Pakistan, even before the news legislation, journalists have faced arrests under terrorism legislation, which civil rights monitors say is used as a cudgel on dissent. That's right. Remember that lady? They were trying to make the truth czar or whatever, the Biden's bullshit. Yeah, it does sound like CNN. So sounds like it a lot. So I guess Trump saw how poorly Democratic press secretaries and press people have been abused. So he's trying to make nice with the indies. Trump is. The White House urges TikTokers to apply for press passes. Come get them, you TikTokers. You know who you are. In her first time at the White House podium, Karen Leavitt said an additional seat for new media voices had been reserved at the front of the cramped briefing room. Trump has repeatedly criticized traditional media as the enemy of the people, and he credits a series of podcast appearances for aiding his return to the White House. As the youngest press secretary in history, thanks to President Trump, I take great pride in opening up this room to new media voices, the 27-year-old Leavitt told a packed briefing room. Whether you're a TikTok content creator, a blogger, a podcaster, if you are producing legitimate news content, you will be allowed to apply for press credentials to this White House, she said. The shakeup was more modest than some news organizations had feared after the president's son, Donald Trump Jr., talked in November about opening up the press room. The 49 seats in the room are allocated to a number of news organizations, including AFP, that are members of the White House Correspondents Association. Reporters without seats are allowed to stand at the side if there's space, as they did for Leavitt's packed-out debut on Tuesday. The new press secretary also vowed to hold reporters accountable for what she said were lies about Trumpy. We know for a fact there have been lies that have been pushed by many legacy media outlets in this country about this president, about his family, and we will not accept that, she said. The briefing at the iconic White House podium was Leavitt's first since Trump was inaugurated 8 days ago, or 10 days ago. She has so far largely spoken to conservative television outlets, including Fox News. Trump sidestepped interviews with some major U.S. TV networks during the election campaign, opting instead to speak to several largely right-wing podcasts, including the hugely popular Joe Rogan Experience. I guess RFI considers him right-wing. I don't know. Maybe he is. Who knows? Okay. Okay. Cool. Yeah, I was talking about this with Franco and the gang on his show on Monday. So there was the TikTok ban, right? And there still kind of is the TikTok ban. So if you still have TikTok on your phone, you can use it, no problem. You just won't get any system updates or security updates for that app, right? Now, if you delete the app, it's gone. You can't get it back, at least not right now. It's not on the iTunes store or Apple store, and it's not on the Google Play Store either. So there's some idiots who got rid of it, and now they want it back, but they can't get it back from the store. But they're willing to buy people's phones, so that still have the app on there. So iPhones with TikTok installed selling big on eBay after brief ban. This is wild. Some iPhones with the TikTok app, which is currently unavailable in the Apple and Google app stores, are fetching big bucks on eBay in the wake of video sharing app's brief ban in the U.S. The video sharing platform returned for U.S. users on Sunday and Monday, but smartphone users who deleted the app during the brief ban have been unable to reinstall it due to its ongoing absence from those stores. Some iPhone owners who didn't delete the app are now selling their devices on eBay, with some asking thousands of dollars for the phone. At least 2 iPhones listed as containing the app were sold after being listed for $10,000, but it was unclear what sum was actually paid by the owners, as the completed listings note best offer accepted. One iPhone 15 was sold after 2 bids for a price of $3,100. Multiple other ongoing listings are attempting to sell TikTok-enabled iPhones for prices ranging from $100 to $35,000. God damn! With one optimistic seller listing an iPhone 15 with TikTok, and CapCut, a video editing app with the same Chinese parent company as TikTok, is asking $4.9 million for the phone. That's what they're asking. They can keep asking. I don't know if they'll get a response, at least not when they want. It remains unclear when TikTok will return to the Apple and Google stores, as talks are ongoing for the future of the app's ownership. So yeah, if you got an old phone and you still have TikTok on there, make a couple bucks for yourself. I'm sure some sucker will probably buy it. Better do it now before they start figuring out it's a dumb idea. I'm just saying. I'm not saying. I'm just saying. Okay, so that's it for the propaganda watch, because we kind of cut short the other day, and I felt really bad about that. I figured I'd give you an extended kicker today. Not 1, not 2, but 3 fun stories, 2 of which are kind of a callback to some stories we've done before. So let's start off first. Our first good news: the wildlife officers have rescued 30 cold-stunned sea turtles in Florida. They weren't smoking grass. They were just cold. Okay? Just so you know. Those look like army helmets. Okay, so a pair of wildlife officers in Florida rescued 30 cold-stunned sea turtles amid unusually low temperatures in the region. The Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission said on social media that the officers went out on the freezing water in Gulf County and managed to round up 30 cold-stunned sea turtles whose lives were endangered by the cold weather. See, because it's not supposed to be cold in Florida. When water temps dip to 50 degrees or below, sea turtles can become weak and unable to swim, floating listlessly in the water or near shore. FWC officials wrote, "Keep in mind that cold-stunned turtles can appear to be dead, but often are still alive. Parts of Florida have experienced 6 to 8 inches of snow amid the historic weather event that happened. Our officers, staff, and partners are still working diligently to search and rescue cold-stunned sea turtles across our northwest coastlines," the Post said. So, yay for the turtles. The turtles are good. As for the monkeys, remember those escaped monkeys in South Carolina? Well, they finally got the last 4. The last 4 escaped monkeys are captured in South Carolina after months on the loose. Turns out they were at a strip club. smoking cigarettes, drinking alcohol, and making it rain with the money they stole from a couple ATMs. You know, we got a monkey story in there. So let's get down to it. This is in Yosemite, South Carolina. Authorities in South Carolina said the last 4 of 43 escaped monkeys have been recaptured after 2 months living in the woods, weathering a rare snowstorm and being tempted back into captivity by peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. See, that's how they always get me when I escape. They're like, hey, you want some peanut butter jelly time? Peanut butter jelly time. And I'm like, all right. You always get me with a PB&J. The rhesus macaque monkeys, all females, made a break for it after police say an employee did not fully lock their enclosure at Alpha Genesis, a facility that breeds them for medical research, known to locals as the Monkey Farm. The recaptured monkeys appeared to be in good health. Alpha Genesis CEO Greg Westergaard said in a statement relayed by Yosemite police in a social media post without further details. While they were on the loose, the area saw its first snow in 7 years, accumulating up to 3 inches. The rhesus macaques made a break for it on November 6th and mostly hung around near the facility. They're about the size of a cat, weighing roughly 7 pounds. It appears a worker unintentionally left the gates unlocked when the monkeys escaped. Westergaard said in November, workers were supposed to lock and latch one gate before opening another, but all 3 gates and latches were left insecure. And then one of them started talking. They called him Caesar. What's up, Yona? Yona, over the Rock fan. What's up, brother? Good to see you, man. Yeah, so, no, none of them were talking, I don't think. And they got them all back, so, there won't be any Planet of the Apes shit, unfortunately, for you. Finally, folks, I love me some googly eyeballs. You know what I mean? Where's my guy here? There's my guy. Hi, buddy. I love me some googly eyeballs, right? Man says he was behind some of the viral googly eyes on public art in Oregon. We told you about this story a while back, yeah? Somebody sticking googly eyes on shit around Oregon. There's a culprit right there. Looks very scared. Probably needs a hug. A resident of the central Oregon city of Bend said he was the person behind some of the googly eyes that appeared on sculptures around the city in recent months and sparked a viral sensation widely covered by news outlets. Jeff Keith, founder of a Bend-based nonprofit called Guardian Group that works to combat human trafficking, said Friday that he used duct tape to attach googly eyes to 2 sculptures. He said he has carried out similar pranks on other Bend sculptures before, such as adorning them with hula skirts and leis, and that they serve as a respite from the emotional toll of his work. It is a place for me to cope with some pretty heavy stuff, he told the AP, noting that many of the trafficking victims he has worked with have been through unimaginable trauma. The city shared photos of the googly eye installations on social media in early December. Even we did, saying the adhesives can damage the art. Oh, come on. One photo shows googly eyes placed on a sculpture of 2 deer, which Keith described as his handiwork, while another shows them attached to a sphere, the one we just showed you. City officials at the time said 8 sculptures were affected and that it cost $1,500 to remove the googly eyes. I don't think it costs that much. Somebody's looking to get paid. The social media post prompted a cascade of comments, with many social media users saying they like the googly eyes and that the city shouldn't spend time and money on removing them. The post and its comments were covered by news outlets and even made it on the segment of CBS's Late Show with Stephen Colbert. But don't make that a bad story for you, because googly eyes are always a good story. Macaques on the loose, keep your mouth shut, or you might catch a nut. Yeah, you might catch some shit. They fling their shit at people. I got to tell you the quick story about monkeys. So when I lived in LA, I went to the LA Zoo. I only went there one time. You go see it, and you're like, okay, I saw it. Anyway, and there were some kids yelling at some monkeys and through this fence, and I was like, man, you kids are asking for it. I kind of said that to myself because I didn't want to warn the kids. I knew what was going to happen. And sure enough, they're yelling at these monkeys, and these motherfuckers starts taking a dump and starts throwing at these kids, and the kids start crying because they got shit all over them. It wasn't December 25th, but I could have sworn it was Christmas that day, because that was the best gift ever, watching a little kid get shit thrown at him. But that's neither here nor there. So we got that's it for all our stories today. I'm glad we made it through. I don't think we had any problems. We have any problems? I think we're okay. Monday was just being Monday, I guess. So today we got, I think Willie Bragg's got his show tonight, 7 p.m. Eastern. Willie Bragg. No ExtraBulla tonight. We may do it Friday night. We'll see. Or we might have a secret show Friday night. Since we don't have one on Saturday, because I'm going to be busy birthday partying with peeps. But let's see. Kevin and Black Bear News coming up at 2 p.m. Eastern, and D from Around the World with D and Friends, 9 p.m. Eastern. All those are on YouTube. I know Black Bear News is on Rockfin and Rumble, I think, and in addition to YouTube, and D's on Facebook, and Willie's on Twitch. So got to diversify those platforms if you're doing this shit, because you never know when one's going to come down and knock you off. Ain't that right, buddy? You know what I'm saying there? We're going to just put you right down there. Ooh. No, he's not doing that. Get down. You're too crazy. Okay, there we go. All right, folks. I'm glad we got through all this today. You don't know how happy I am. I was so pissed on Monday when this shit didn't work. It was working for about an hour, and then all of a sudden it just went straight to hell. So, yeah, I think I got all the promos out of the way. Of course, these folks here too. Make sure you're checking them out. If you liked everything, if you're new, if you want to like, share, and subscribe to all that good stuff, we appreciate it. We got donation links below too. You want to become a patron, you can do this for $1 a month. Get your name up there at the beginning of the show. And, and it helps me out too. Helps me get to be able to do more of this kind of stuff. If you can share out, if you can't donate, if you can share out the links, it's just like everybody else. If you can share out the links is very important. So it's like, why don't I get any money? How can I help? If you share out links for people, stuff like that, you're doing a great service. And hopefully someone, follows your lead too as well, and they share it out as well. So, we're all trying to help each other in this space, especially like people just trying to survive, or people just trying to provide information to you. Just be careful. Always always scrutinize your news. Even this one, that's why we have the links I put them in I have this Google Doc that I put all the links in there. So when you click on the thing in the description, it takes you to there, and it shows you the title of the thing and where you can go see it. So you can check it out for yourself. And I encourage you to do that with any of these news sources. And you say, hey, look, man, I read that story you read the other day and I found something wrong with it. Let me know. Then we'll talk about it. We're always open to the truth around here. So we're trying to be anyway. You hate those damn monkeys. When Yona cry, Uncle, he passes the joint back. That's true. That's true. Because you're giving away a friend. No. All right, I'm rambling now. Guys, have a great day. This show will be back on Friday morning. I almost said Wednesday because I was thinking it was Monday. Yeah, all the good stuff today. I think Willie's got a show tomorrow too. I think he's doing it Monday, Tuesday, or Monday, Wednesday, Thursday. So, and what's this? Shout out to Brooklyn's Cozy 19 and Ito the Truth for letting Yona remix their song. Oh, okay. Right on. Let's see. Anybody else? Did we miss anybody else? Everybody here. Rockfin, Rumble, appreciate y'all. YouTube, appreciate you as well. Y'all have a great day. I will see y'all Friday morning for more fun and adventure here on Morning Extra. Have a great day, guys. Take care.
This is City Alpha 5. Woo!